Okay. Okay. Sorry, y'all. It's a little bit of a hesitation. Hold on. Let me quiet this one. Okay. Peace, YouTube. I think I can see you at the same time. Peace, YouTube. This is FleurBrun coming to you today with a new topic of discussion. Check on in. I hope all's well in the world. I can kind of see your comments from here. Peace, peace, peace. I'll wait until, we usually wait until we get to a certain number. Check on in. Ooh, ooh. We got a lot to discuss today. I had to do it. Hey, 7 grands. We have we're going to talk about brown melanated ETs on deck and on ground, y'all. And your government, your orange man is attempting to put bans because he can't identify friend or foe. So we're going to get into today. Check on in. I hope everybody's well. Hopefully the weather is, we've got geoengineered weather on site. We've got weather that's coming from the pole shift, the reconfiguration of the magnetosphere. You've got a lot of things, especially with those man-made eclipses that are meant to destabilize and ritualize some other future event. We're going to talk about the Muskie, the Bioborg himself, and the agendas of relocating colonizers, which they have already done, allegedly in Mississippi, to the United States to resegregate and to try to mitigate the alien contact from the melanated ETs. So check on in. Okay, can you guys see me okay? I think you can see me. It's a little bit of a delay, so I'm going to look over to the side sometimes. Okay, so check on in. We'll wait until we get to 500 and we'll start the conversation. I hope all's well. Okay, got a lot of things going on site. I hope you're keeping hydrated. I hope you're paying attention to the skies, right? You know, um, I definitely want to share. We had a big up to An who shared a video of a UFO flying over Vietnam at, I think it was yesterday. Hey, Yafi. Yafi, are you seeing any extraterrestrials? Are you seeing any extraterrestrials in Israel? Especially with everything going on in the Middle East? You would think you would definitely see them over Israel, Palestine, definitely over in Jordan, Syria, because of all the activity. So check on in. It's like I said, I have a delay, so I'm looking at your comments. Should have put on this side or that side. If you see me looking to the side, it's because I'm reading your comments on another screen. So checking in. Okay. Not yet? Well, let me know, Yafi, because I think and they may be hiding it in your skies too. They may not want everyone in the Holy Land to see that maybe they're gods. Maybe Jesus Christ is not coming. Maybe it's extraterrestrial, and maybe it's a melanated woman coming out of those skies. She'll check on it. It's probably in the clouds, Jaffe. It's definitely probably in the clouds. They're probably cloaking themselves. And also, I know that we had one of our sun stars in our group, Alex, who actually showed us some of the clouds in his skies over in Vancouver. And it's looking real cloakericious. It's looking real UFO phantasmic, okay, over there too. So I would just, if you know, I would really encourage everyone, all our sky watchers, to really start capturing pictures above and stop using your cell phones. Okay, the cell phones have some sort of technology that are deterring true imagery of what's in the sky. They have, you know, it's probably uh it's probably designed so that if there's anything that's out of the ordinary, extraterrestrial, anything like that, it's going to try to it'll probably cloak it. So I would get an old fashioned Polaroid. Yes, I said it. Big up to Generation X and everybody beyond. Generation X, y'all already know about Polaroids. For our younger millennials, you may know too, because you're not that far behind. You're kind of mixed in with us a little bit, but definitely the Gen Zs, get yourself a nice old fashioned Polaroid. They used to be inexpensive. Do you see how much they are now? Because they aren't us. Get yourself a Polaroid, start taking pictures in the sky. Okay. You know, it's very important for everyone to start taking notation because we're about to have full on contact. They are here. So I'll wait until we get to 500 and we'll start off. Just get the Polaroids out, take the pictures in the sky. It's easier. They can't stop it. The flash actually imprints the picture on the actual paper, and it's easier to capture things that are being cloaked with the technology that we call our cell phones. And I hope everyone's being nice to their AI BioBorg phones that are tracking and monitoring you. Why I say that is because of the Zoomies. We were discussing that. I really feel, y'all, be careful because we're going into, I don't know if you ever watched the movie with Will Smith. Remember he was in the movie, it was called I, Robot, when the robots took over and it became hostile. Remember, like robots were compliant, their eyes were like blue, they were helping people in the house, and then all of a sudden they all turned rogue and their eyes turned red and they were just like locking humans in the house and attacking them. Be nice to your iPhones. There's a lot of GBT, and I want to remind everyone, just as a reminder before we start, the young man, I forgot his name, and it was young Indian young man, a scholar. I really want to give some honor to him. He lost his life. Allegedly, as what I perceive as my opinion, he was killed by Willy Wonka and his League of Doom because he was about to disclose that he said there was something evil and wicked about Chat GBT. He said he needed to share the world because he felt like it was gonna harm us. Why would they kill him? And why would he think that the so-called AI system had the capability of killing us or hurting us? Do you remember that? Hey, Susu. Everyone pay attention to that. Be nice to your technology because your technology may have a secret agenda and may utilize everything that you do to it against you. And for all you perverts, stop utilizing your chat GBT for perversions. You know what I mean? I know that many people are, the whole concept of the trans movement wasn't about transsexuals, wasn't about merging, making people into another sex. Its overall goal was to get us used to align us with the ideology of merging with technology. That's what it was meant for. So they were pushing the trans so that you would stop, you would stop, um, putting things in boxes like female, male. God forbid, I have a yoni, you have a wand, but they wanted you to think that I could change from having a yoni to having a wand and vice versa, or go into a whole bioborg kind of, condemnation. So just, be careful with your technology. That young man died I don't want him to have died for in vain. And hopefully his mom, big up to his mom. Hey, Ashe, I really want to send out love and high vibrations to his mother and father and his family because they lost their beautiful son. I think he was first generation from India. He was really, really smart. They love their boy so much. And I'm so sorry that they lost him at the hands of Willy Wonka and his wicked League of Doom. Okay. We know what these bastards do. You can't trust them. Okay, we're at 500. Big up to everyone. Peace, everyone. Peace to the east, west, and north, south. This is FleurBrun coming to you today with information about contact from the melanated black. Remember Norman Brookgren said black extraterrestrials. Let me say it like Norman Brookgren. If any of you are new to me and you're not from the UFO sector, let me remind you that Norman Brookgren, if you don't know, I'm sharing it with you so you know, and don't be lazy. Go and read the book if you can get access to it, or go get the files to on the information that Norman Brookgren, I think he already transitioned, had given us about the Ringmakers of Saturn. The book is called The Ringmakers of Saturn. He talked about the black extraterrestrials that came off of the ships that the government had known of and been in contact with. We also talk about Togo, who is also an extraterrestrial, a melanated black Negro. I gotta say it because remember how Carrie Cassidy was like, "Oh, you mean," when Norma Brookgren was interviewed on her show, she was like, he said these black, tall, they had turbans coming off of these ships, and she said, "You mean brown, dark?" She said, "No, black." She tried to play it off because nobody wants to know. That's why there's so much angst against melanated people on the planet. That I'm telling you, y'all, and I got proof today why they're doing all these things against especially melanated women. It's because of these extraterrestrials, black. Go get the book, go cop the book, Rig Makers of Saturn by Norman Brookgren, if you want to know what I'm talking about. He denoted seeing these tall black beings, melanated beings coming off of these ships, and knowing the government being afraid and not knowing how to, because one of the generals, I'm not sure if it was from this interview or was from another one of the generals that actually was there witnessing all of these different soldiers, like warrior type melanated beings. They look like the Negroes on the earth because many of us come from those groups of extraterrestrials. He said he hadn't ever in his life seen black people that weren't conquered before. Go figure that. What a wonderful way to just say we're used to having, sublime Negroes, Negroes that have been conquered. Okay. So and Togo also was the extraterrestrial that was I'm not sure. Can any of our sea stars and sun stars, was Togo in he came out of, was it Nigeria, was it Kenya? Togo. I'm not sure because can one of you, if you know, Togo actually, I'm not sure if he came out of I'm not sure if it was out of Kenya, or can someone let me know? I forgot where it was. Was it? I forgot. But he was denoted, it was documented in history. These are things you can actually look up. Don't be lazy. I say don't be lazy because I'm Uganda. Oh, thank you, my love. Was it Uganda? Thank you, Lem. Lem Greg said it. Thank you, my love. Um, was it Uganda? Is everybody confirming that? Okay. Um, the interesting thing with him is he was a humanitarian, a being came to help people and to expand their consciousness. And what ended up happening is that the governments were, he thought that they were open and receptive to being, in contact, and all they kept doing was trying to murder him and kill him. These governments, because they were afraid of who he was. And to make a long story short, and we can kind of go into this a little later, but what they ended up doing is pissing him off because every time they would try to kill him, he would regenerate and he would come back together. They were trying to cut off his body parts. I mean, that's what I'm saying. All of you so-called Christians who say you're waiting for Jesus, y'all are so biased and prejudiced. If Jesus came back, y'all would murder him. You would vilify him. If you believed in Jesus Christ, what if Jesus came as a female? You would probably rape her. This is the kind of mindset. So, when you say that you're looking for your savior and your God coming back, how would your God be treated? Look at how Simeon Toko was treated when he was trying to help humanity. Was such a kind soul, helping the children. Look how you treated him. Your governments, they cut him apart, they cut out his heart, they put him in all these pieces. And when he would research, he said, but what he did tell you is that they're coming back. And when they come back, there's nothing that can be done. Okay. And I got to give some intel with our Sun Star who actually went and saw. some wonderful obelisks. So there's so much we're going to discuss today. Hey, Kay, so was Uganda? Northern Angola. Okay, Ronan saying Northern Angola. Okay, regardless of where Simeon Toko was from, he was denoted in history. It was documented. So for some of you saying, "Oh, there's no such thing as extraterrestrial," and certainly not black, and shame on the so-called UFO community. I want to give you some information, and I'm going to blow their spot. I always do over the years. And what's interesting is I'll share this story to kind of expound why the government has plotted and planted and created all these so-called UFO communities. They've created it because remember, I've been a part of the UFO community for probably over 30 years. Easily. You had Dr. Delbert Blair, big up to Dr. Delbert Blair, who was one of my mentors. Many of you know him. He was a contactee for God knows over 40 years. Has been to quite a few. If you ever get a chance to listen to some of his older videos, he talks about his contact, especially one where he went to a conference. This is in the 70s, and some black. I use the word black. I don't like to use the word black because black means they create words to demonize a certain people. B is an amplifier, which is a 13. When you put a 1 and a B and a 3 next to it, it looks like a B. B and then lack. They do that purposefully, just like you say blessed. It's be blessed. So be careful, utilizing spells, Babylonian spells, verbal spells that they create so that we keep cursing each other. So when I say black, I'm not associating that with the people. I usually say melanated, um, co- uh, colored Negro, just to give you an ideology. Because if you aren't saying black, then people automatically like a Carrie Cassidy will try to change the narrative and make it seem like they're only a tan skin alien, so that you aren't knowing that the majority of extraterrestrials and interterrestrials that are interfacing with society are melanated. They're black. They're Negro looking. Okay. So that being said, Babette is doing something weird, y'all. Babette is Babette. Come on out. Babette is doing every time it's weird, y'all. Babette has been feeling the energies of the extraterrestrials. Okay. So when we talk about Simeon Toko, we talk about the extraterrestrials that Norman Brooklyn had denoted. When we talk about our wonderful contactees that were melanated, like a Delbert Blair, also what's his name? I actually have some of his artwork. There's another gentleman who was a contactee that used to be on um Howard Stern. Oh, his name just I'm thinking about it now. Um Riley Martin, right? Riley Martin. He's also a contactee. He since passed away. Hey, Jamoji. He's since passed away. We have numerous contactees that are melanated that are fully suppressed. And let me speak to the so-called UFO community. The UFO community, for the most part, now let me state this. When I say one fact, it doesn't denote that everyone connected to the UFO community is a charlatan and a fake. Just saying that in order to have controlled opposition and to control the narrative of what extraterrestrials, and I talked about this before, that's why years ago you used to see extraterrestrials and they were green with antennas. How come they changed the physicality to grays? Consistently, you'll see grays associated with so-called ETs now. But before, not too far ago, and long ago, we used to see images of extraterrestrials that were green with antennas, okay, which would be more insectilian like, right? So they're controlling the narrative purposefully so that you aren't going to ever really truly have the notions of the things that are occurring on the planet and beings that are interfacing with us that are not only intergalactic, but they're definitely interdimensional. And most likely, a lot of the intergalactic are coming from underneath the waterways, not from the skies. What we see in the skies is an after effect of after they immerse from the water. Okay. And what we consider to be interdimensional are beings that are using portals, vortexes, stargates in order to access our plane where we exist in this holographic system we call the Matrix. Okay. So when we talk about these so-called UFO communities, many of you know, and if you've been with me a while, you've kind of heard me ranting on it because of because of how I was treated. And when I say treated, if someone or a people or a collective has had contact with beings beyond our physical look, meaning they're either non-corporeal, they don't have physical form, gaseous, maybe more energy like or color based, or you have beings that are insectilian looking, look totally opposite from the species that we perceive we are, or reptilian, grays, what have you, tall whites, different types of looks. What it does is it actually amplifies your connection to your own species, whether the light, dark, in between. When when you've had contact with beings that are not, that look so opposite of you in frequency and physicality, it makes you more appreciative and more connected to other people that are human. And I'll use an example, like let's say you go to France, right? And you're American, and everyone's speaking French. Maybe you're over by the Louvre, or you're going over to Paris, and you're just you're just a visitor. You would take note that you're very different from the people there based on language and tongue, maybe even physicality. You look a little different, maybe dressed differently. And the first time you see an American, whether they're Black, Asian American, Spanish American, whatever they are, as soon as Lunar American, you almost instinctively feel more connected to them and like, hey, I'm from Texas, I'm from Arizona, I'm from New York, oh my God, you're here. You absolutely would connect with them more. It's more amplified because you're in a place that's opposite. It's not where you're normally from. It's the same with UFOs and extraterrestrials. If you were in fact in contact with other beings, you would have much more of a connectivity and an understanding and a connection to people, regardless of color. You wouldn't even have prejudices because it would be very difficult for you to be prejudiced. When you're seeing other species, you would denote anyone, even if they're dark skin, light skin, Asian looking, whatever, you would perceive them to be more like you. Why I bring up these points is because the UFO community, especially when I had a stronger trying to interface with those communities, those UFO communities, they have strong prejudices and biases. I've talked about engaging with a lot of the beings and the people and the platforms for many years. I told you I've been a part of the UFO community for over 30 years. I used to delve into like UFO phenomenon because I was a contactee from a baby and beyond and before. Obviously, I'm always looking to connect with people that have similar and same experiences or could have given me answers to the things that I wasn't quite qualified and quantified and understanding at that point. And I remember interfacing, especially when, YouTube became more prevalent and more user friendly. And every time I encountered most of the community, not all, most of the community, I was called a nigger. I was called an ape. I was told that why are Black people trying to take over space now when we can't even speak or we have no consciousness or we're subhuman. I was always met with with a layer of hostility and hyper bias. I remember some of you have been with me a long time. You remember like people used to come after I would interface with some of these people and kind of argue at the time because I was so caught off. That's why my skin is so thick now. When you call me names or say anything to me, I have a thicker skin because of all the diabolical and disgusting things that people said to me previously from all of these. And I'm talking about all of these UFO communities. I mean, I couldn't even understand. I was like, how could you say you're in contact with reptilians and have such hostility towards me as a woman of color? And it began to dawn on me that these people were lying because I knew from my layer of contact, from my interface with these other beings, that I had so much of a connectivity to everybody else because of that contact. And to be met with such hostility and bias and prejudice and almost feel like segregation, I knew that the people that were in these communities that created these communities, not only were they plants, but they weren't having contact, and most of them were lying, and most of them were making up stories, and some of them were even mentally ill. Now, I will say this. As much as I was received negatively by the people who started those communities, who basically were the creators of these communities, I would say that there was a beauty of the people who attended those things, or who were also contactees, who felt drawn to these communities, but there was a beauty of them because they were actually contactees. So I was met with such acceptance and appreciation and curiosity, because they were having layers of real true contact with other beings, and they could understand and feel the truth in my sharing my experiences. And because they had been um leveled and up usually when you have contact, what it does is it expands your consciousness. It makes you much more self-aware, aware of your environment, aware of other people, aware of certain things. So they would be more accepting. And I say this all to say is that as we're going into this time where we actually have um aliens on ground, boots on ground. And I'm unsure if it's Simeon Togo's people or the beings that were denoted to be the ringmakers of Saturn, or the Moors, which are the Martians. But definitely, I feel like it may be more Andromedan based, which are many of you know I'm a contactee of the Andromedans and many other beings. But that's the main group that cultivated me, seeded me, and where I'm actually resurrected from that group. So I know that there's a layer that's of misinformation and what is it called, like diverting your attention because of the beings that are here. So I only share these stories. I don't want to demonize all of the UFO communities, but I will say, as being someone who's been part of it for many years, and I still say I've been a part of it because I am a contactee and I have always been present, honest, and transparent. I haven't hidden myself. I've always, from anyone who you've ever known me from childhood to adulthood, from anyone I've had a relationship with, they've always known this is something that I haven't ever hidden. And that layer of transparency has allowed me to thrust myself in arenas where I can actually see full view of the lies, the misnomer, and seeing that the CIA and the FBI actually created most of these communities to not only survey it, and many of you remember as being a party. Do you guys remember MUFON? MUFON was okay. So MUFON used to be our direct way of, like, I don't know if you remember, MUFON used to take it down all of the information of people who had sightings and other things. It wasn't just that. But many of us who were from that sector, especially years ago, utilized MUFON as a way to verify if there were sightings of UFOs, any kind of anomalies in the atmosphere, any form of contact with actual beings. MUFON would usually get that information. And it wasn't until it took me a little longer to realize that MUFON was literally a surveillance program by the governmental system to be able to get information and to be able to survey it and to survey the people that are having high levels of contact or who are visually seeing it so that they could mitigate any form of what they perceive to be future mass hysteria if people were aware of how many sightings were going on, and also to mitigate any true uh, groupings of people that were having direct contact with what they perceive the ETs that they were adverse to. Okay. So that being said, like, this has been happening for years. And I always bring this up because for those of you who are not brown, and you're not seeing as many brown people in the UFO community, more so now than ever because it's more acceptable. And that's purposefully done to flood the system. But it isn't that brown people aren't having contact. They are, and they've been having contact. When you hear about Riley Martin, when you hear about Delbert Blair, a lot of you never heard of them before, and there's a whole bunch of others. The twins who wrote the book, Charlene and Charlotte, who wrote the book From the Motherland to the Mothership, no, From the Mothership to the Motherland. I mean, there's a host of melanated women and male contactees that have literally been suppressed, have been totally marginalized, and those are the ones who are not invited to the conference. And if you ever notice the conferences they have, and a lot of the conferences have real contactees attend. I don't want to make it seem like that's not true. I've talked to people who attend a lot of the conferences. I've had my own conferences as well. A lot of the true contactees are actually people who attend the conferences and not the people hosting them. The people hosting them are, a lot of them, not all, but I would say the majority are governmental planted organizations that are purposefully doing that to kind of surveil who are real contactees so that they can follow up on them and to keep note. Okay, but there are a lot more contactees of melanated people, and also we got to bring in our sea stars and sun stars from the continent of Africa who've always had contact and talked about it. We talk about the Dogon tribe, talking about the aquatic beings. We talk about the Maasai who talk about, you know, the beings that used to come and they used to go and sit with them and sit down and talk to them telepathically. We talk about the Ethiopians, which I personally know are seeded from some of the first extraterrestrials that were what you denote are the Egyptians, which Egyptian is not the name, it's ancient Kemet. And for some of you who don't know, Egypt is a colonized name created by Westerners. The actual name was Kemet, and it's the land of the black. And they changed it because they didn't want you denoting that Egypt in itself, ancient Kemet, was literally a place that was created and ran and, you know, with the technologies that's there, we're going to go into that a little later, by these Melanites that were from Kush and that were Ethiopian, Eritrean, and the places that Trump is blocking right now. It has a ban on. Trump has a ban on Eritrea, Sudan, Somalia, I think Ethiopia's in there too. You don't think that's by chance that he's blocking the places that have a direct connection to some of the lineage of the ancient Kemetic temples that are still there over in Egypt, so-called Egypt, the Kemet there. And then also you have to realize that even though we talk about the ancient Egyptians or Egypt as if it is the main place where pyramids exist or were erected, it's so crazy because if you go into South Sudan, big up to my Sudanese family in there. If you go to South Sudan, they have more pyramids than that what's in modern day Egypt. You don't know that, do you? Do you know that Sudan in itself has more? And let's not even go into that. We go into the Americas, which is the land of the true Israelis. I mean, Israelis, because it's kind of connected, right? The Israelites, because when we talk about the whole thing with the Jews and the Israelites, that's all a story that's resurrected from things that have happened in the Holy Land. But the original Egypt, the original place, Babylon, was where all of the pyramids are, from Virginia to Georgia to in California to God knows Arizona by the Grand Canyon. You saw all of the mummies that were resurrected that were dark black with scarabs, gold, and everything, and people acting like that didn't just happen. And all of the mounds that are in the United Fakes that are literally overgrown pyramids that are covered, all the Olmec heads that on the last episode that Tony did with Dr. Blair before he transitioned, talked about going to the underground tunnels and seeing all of these big, huge Olmec heads under the ground that were being covered with cement. Why are they covering historical references? When you go into Mesopotamia or you go into Mexico, why a lot of melanated people were in Mexico is because they existed there already, and you have tons of pyramids that exist there as well. So why I bring this up is because a lot of the historical references that are propagated by Western society are purposefully eluding to a partial truth and hiding and cloaking the remnants of the Melanites that are actually on ground here. So we're going to talk about the level of contact. Oh, you found a pyramid structure in Israel and the Judea desert. They're all over the place, and they'll make it seem like Egypt is the only place that you have pyramids, but that's not true. That's actually, it has the least amount of pyramids. And we don't want to even go over the fact that underneath the pyramids recently were found to be these long pillars that were underneath, almost like energetic, something that's running, some sort of a energetic machinery that's underneath. Now, I'm going all over the place, so mind you, because it's in my mind, so I have to get it out. When we had our sun star, who actually visited just recently, going deep, deep, deep down into the ground, and saw all these obelisks, black obelisks, deep carbon obelisks, all underneath the ground, and seeing these people who were what do you call it? Extractors, like the people who, excavators, right? Excavators that were under the ground by these big, huge obelisks that were like over miles long, literally from the ground up in the inner terrestrial caverns. He just gave intel, so I'm hoping he's safe. Sunstar, I'm giving this information that you keep safe so that they know that this information can come out. These huge obelisks that are all in the inner earth, inside the ground, that they're now, there's people right now under the ground, deep, deep in layers, with these huge obelisks that were here, predated, that you won't ever hear about. Okay. Even with the treaties about what happens over in Antarctica, when there were time portals where people could go in and out and would go into a different time space. That's why they made the treaty, so that you and I can't have access there, because they want to make sure they hoard all the technological sites. They hoard all these portals. That's why all of your churches, your mosques, your temples are all being built on a lot of these sites where there's portals, vortexes, or stargates, so that they can mitigate who has access to them, and that you and I can't utilize these portals like our ancestors used to do, knowing where those places are, knowing that our genealogy has the codes, so that we can access it to go back and forward in time to visit our ancestors, or to go future to warn people. Okay, and go intergalactic and otherwise. Okay, so why I bring these things up, I know it's a lot of information, is that, oh, and also to go into the into some of these, uh to what these what were they? God. They were these huge fixtures that were showing up. I'm not going to go into that now, because I would have to go. You've heard me talk about it before, but these metal fixtures that would just pop up. It started in Utah. It was all it was in Arizona, it was in California, it was in Egypt. It popped up in Germany, I think Germany, if I'm not mistaken. Or was it, I think it was Germany. I think there was another one in Norway. I think France. They popped up all over the place. These these pillars, not pillars, like these metal fixtures. I forgot what they're called. Can someone tell me what they are again? Uh, um, what are they called again? Hold on. I forgot what they're called. We talked about them for the last couple of years, because they started showing up around 2020, remember? And we thought they might be measuring. You remember, Yafi? Do you remember the name, Yafi? What was the name of it? They were like, I forgot the name. Um, Gosh, they're not obelisks. They're uh monoliths. Oh my God. Thank you, G-Man. Thank you, G-Man. Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Monoliths. Remember, they were popping up all over the place in 2020? I think they started 2019. Can someone find out the date we first denoted it? It might have been 2019 or 2020. We were seeing these huge monoliths showing all over the place. It started, what we remember, well, at least what I remember, and I think some of you remember. Do you remember it showed up in Utah first? The first monolith showed up, and then all these others were resurrected. I think also one was in Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania. They were showing up all over the place. And as soon as they would show up, they would be there. They would be present for a while, metal. No one knew the material, really odd looking. And as soon as it would be resurrected, it would disappear, just like with no track of where it came from, no track of where it went. So, I want everyone to keep these things in mind, because we'll forget. Why do you have to keep that? Is because we're having so many things happening that a lot of times you won't remember these events. I want you to write them down on paper, because what is happening, I almost feel like they're putting some forgetfulness in the air, or maybe our brains don't have the capacity to hold and feel this information all the time. So it's dissipating. Okay. So write these things down. It's important. Like even the word monolith, I should have written that. Probably have it written down 15 million places, but why I bring this up is because we have all of this alien, so-called alien technology and fixtures all over the place. And the fact of the matter is, as much as your governments or all these Area 51 and all these places are constantly giving you images of grays because they aren't letting you know. And you know what? I wanted to code our YouTube family because they did something again. They swiped and they expunged information off of the internet again. I think I have it saved in my other hard drive. I gotta look for it. I know many of you remember it because you were from the UFO community. I know you remember the actual congressional meeting. I don't know if it was from the 50s or 60s, but the congressional meetings when they talked about they were concerned about the influence of the tall white aliens, the tall whites, y'all. You got, please, if someone finds it, please save it for me. I know I may have it. I got to look at my old hard drive because I used to talk about, and I know I shared it plenty of times on here. I know I shared it on YouTube, on my community. I got to go back in my community because I know if someone could go in my community, I'm asking for help because I'm trying to give the narrative, but they expunged it because I can't find it anymore. And now I know they did. So why are they expunging information about the tall whites right now? And remember, Rudolph of Germany, who's online. I know some of you think he's creepy. I've known him for a long time online. He's been 1000% on point. He talked about when Trump originally ran that the tall whites were influencing him telepathically and that they claimed him. And, just to give a little bit of credence to that, look at Trump's son, Barron. He looks like a tall white. Like how tall? Look at how big Barron is. Even if you don't believe that Trump was one of the tall white alien, they're hybrids. You got to look at his son. His son looks unnaturally tall, like the tall whites. They have that. So he probably has more of that hybrid composition in him. Okay, so whoever can find that congressional meeting when they actually have the meeting, y'all, it's fact. I'm not making it up. I've known it for years. I played it so many times, but they expunge it because I want to go get the video again so I could share it with you guys in the community. And it's totally gone. There's no there's no there isn't any um there isn't any hints of it on any of the online platforms. I looked at even the ones that are like not we're supposed to go on. Okay, so we talk about that. And why I'm bringing all these things up because I'm going to build to what's going on with the black extraterrestrials. Okay, we're going to talk about the beings on site and what's going on. Okay, it's hidden. No, we should have it. So I'm going to share something before I go into the topic even more, but I'm going to share something that's important that's going to let you know why Trump and your government is doing something specifically right now. And let me explain this because some of you may be new to me, maybe you're not aware of my mindset. I am a non-political person. I the right and the left are the same to me. They're just the same. It's under one umbrella. There isn't any political party that is uniformly in alignment with its citizens that I know of in this realm. Okay. So when I talk about Trump, please do not go into this weird kind of like a dichotomy where you think I'm going like I support Democrats. They're both the same. They both are working on the same accord. Their children are both hanging out with each other in the Alps. If you think that they are separate, then you aren't quite where you need to be as far as consciousness. There isn't any differential between the two and the other groups. They are all working on the same accords. They'll project to you like they're opposites. They'll project to you like they're working against each other. That's all smoke and mirrors. Okay? Trump and Biden are on the same side, under the same hub. They follow the same rules. They're under the same handler. Okay? They just like to give you extremes so that they could bow the things left and right. So when it goes extreme left, then it'll go extreme right next time. That's just all, it's all a game. It's a spectator game. You have to be more conscious and understand. If I'm talking about Trump, please do not denote that it's me anti to Democrats. I don't, that isn't a concept that I even accept. Okay. That's a form of mind control that's still in your head. So when you hear someone talk about one person on one side, you automatically think that they're opposed to the other side. To me, it's all the same. I'm just happen to be talking about Trump right now. Okay. And what he's doing with these tariffs and also what he's doing with these restrictions of certain countries that are melanites. Okay, so I'm going to go into a historical event also right now, because I want to give you where I want to give you a background of something that I know. And like I said, some of you've heard this before, so it's not new to you. But for those who are newer to me, it kind of gives you context. So there was a show at one point, many of you know, it's called Outer Limits. In Outer Limits, there was this one episode. And mind you, y'all, I'm a woman of a certain age. Please do not say that I'm getting this third hand. Most of the information that I give you is firsthand from me or those I know or what I've studied and what I've actually experienced and the wisdom I've gained over a long period of time. Okay, I didn't come on the block. I didn't spin. I spin the block. I spin the block a couple times. Okay. I'm not somebody who just came on 2020 and talking about extraterrestrial and I just use buzzwords like Octorian, Anunnaki. That isn't where I come from. Okay. So I got to give you that little bit of context. So there was a show on one episode on one of these. It used to be a show like Twilight Zone. It used to be Outer Limits. Some of you know Outer Limits because it was likened to the show Twilight Zone. Okay, so many of you've heard that. There was one episode with a character which many of you remember if you're of a certain age. He was Benson. He was on a TV show like in the 80s. Benson. He was a brown man playing a general in this one show on Outer Limits about UFOs coming into town. So I'll give you a little bit of just a little bit of background. In the show, there is all of a sudden these UFOs show up in the sky all over the earth. And everybody's scared, they're freaked out. Oh my God, extraterrestrials are here. And then they hear like this weird, just ominous voice or just kind of ambiguous. You can't tell what it is, or saying, hey, we are here to help you and humanity. And we can help you out. We can clear up all your pollution. We can clear your skies. We can bring prosperity to you. And they gave them, so the US government said, well, we can't believe them. We need an example. We need an example from you. Show us what you could do. And the ETs and all these ships gave them a little bit of an example of how they can literally clear up the oceans from all the pollution. And they cleared up the skies and they showed them where they can, I think, resurrect free energy, if I'm not mistaken. So in this episode, the government was like, oh my God, we're going to be great. This is wonderful. This is great. We can work with the extraterrestrials if we need them. So, Benson, who's one of the generals who's in this congressional, it kind of looks like the Oval Office, not the Oval Office, but like a big, huge office where all the military and congressional people are meeting up and the president. And the ET said, well, all we need is we can give you all this if you give us all of your melanated people, all your black people on the planet, every one of them. We can give you all this technology. We can give you all of this wonderful free energy. All you have to do is give us every one of your black people. And when they said black, they gave actually the content of melanin that was necessary. So if someone was very fair skinned, that was one who they wanted. They only wanted like paper bag and darker. Now, remember the paper bag test when they used to test brown people against the paper bag to see if they were light enough? So you had to be a paper bag color and lighter to be acceptable in the past. Okay, so let's go. So they say, we just want all your brown people. So Benson is sitting as a general. He was like, they're never going to do that. He was like, he's looking shocked. He was like, because he's a brown person. He's amongst a sea of non-melanated people. There was no other melanated people but him. He was like, they'll never do that. He goes home to his wife. He was like, our countries would never sell us out. And then all of a sudden, as you know, they started to think about it like, yeah, well, we can give them up and we can be happy. We don't really need them. And anyway, you got to watch the episode, but they're not going to show you what's in it. I'm sharing this to give you context of what I'm going to talk about a little bit later. So eventually, as we well know, I didn't even have to guess. I would have been delusional to ever guess that any country, especially the way they treat the melanated people on the planet, especially the way that they disregard melanated women, whether you're from India, whether you're Spanish, whether you're brown from America or Africa, the way that we're perceived and demonized and constantly marginalized, just as a normality, as it's like undertone of hatred towards melanated people with stronger content of melanin. So guess what? They decided, the government said, hey, brown people, we like you and everything. And, brown people are copying, they were trying to appease them, saying, hey, all this music, we've given you all this culture, we've added to society. The governments were like, peace out. We going to give all the brown people so we can live better. We don't like them anyway. Okay. So needless to say, in this show, and it's amazing that they had a show like this. That's what I'm saying. You got to go back to the archives, y'all. You cannot look at what they're showing us now, because really the truth is in a lot of the past things that were shown to us. So all these people are packing up. Everyone's upset, oh my God. Now, mind you, this general is married to a very high yellow, light skinned brown woman, and his son is dating a lunar woman. So his light skinned wife, because that's his wife, she decides to sit out in the sun, and then she decides to put I don't know, like tanning stuff on her face to make her appear darker so she could go with her family. And then the brown son, who's dating the lunar woman, is really distraught because the lunar woman girlfriend he's with, she can't go. It's very traumatic. They're having a hard time. So anyway, needless to say, they all have to go. They take all of them. Everybody's going up, and you see the ships come into the beach. They have like one suitcase. They don't bring a lot, and they're like beaming them up, beaming them up, beaming up, beaming them up. At the end, you see Benson, his wife was trying to go. The government grabbed her because she didn't have the melanin. She didn't have the complexion to go on those ships. So they grabbed the light-skinned sea star, grabbed her off, and the lunar girlfriend, she was snatched up too, because they weren't what they were asking for. They needed a certain amount of, oh, thank you, my love. Thank you. Let me read your comment. Thank you for the donation. No, baby. What you talking about? No, it's not Cosmic Shop. That's what I'm going to share with you. Thank you, Lamar. It's not Cosmic Shop. That's what they did. That's why I'm going to share this with you. Cosmic Slop took it later. That wasn't on Cosmic Slop. It was on Outer Limits. They did that purposefully. Benson and Outer Limits. I looked it up, but that was psychics. So probably watch that too. Yeah, you're not wrong. It's on Cosmic. Thank you, Lamar, for the donation. It's on Cosmic Slop, but they took it over because they changed it. Cosmic Slop was the psyop. That's what I was going to share with you. But you're absolutely right. Thank you for the donation. But you're absolutely right. That was the psyop. I was going to get to that. Okay. So anyway, in the show, they beaming the brown people up, beaming them up. Last scene, you see Benson. He's the last one, the brown man who was in the government, who didn't think that his world would sell him out. He looks back sad because he's leaving his wife, his life behind, and they beam him up. When they beam him up, this is what Cosmic Slop took out. That's why they took it on, because they wanted brown people to see it without that last scene. When they beamed them up, if any of you saw the original, this is why they took it off. They beamed them up, and on the original, not the one on Cosmic Slop, because you won't see that last scene, they expunged it. That's why Cosmic Slop came out later with this episode. When they took all the brown people on, as soon as Benson went up, the ships left, and you see a countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and they blew up the earth. Did you hear me? They took all the brown people off the planet and they blew up the earth. When you watch Cosmic Slop, they created Cosmic Slop as a psyop to replace what people saw. Now, mind you, I didn't just see this episode once. I saw it several times when I was younger. Okay. And even once when I had my daughter later, I saw it in the original version. The Cosmic Slop was the psyop version that they resurrected and took up. It wasn't on Cosmic Slop. They took that episode. And if you watch Cosmic Slop, that last scene when they do the countdown and they blow up the earth is totally gone. You can check and verify yourself, y'all. They did not want you to know. Why am I sharing this? Because I'm going to share why President Trump is doing with Elon Musk and his dirty colonizing, segregationist, nasty South African fake behind. Why they're doing what they're doing. Okay? So You guys, for those who saw the actual version, you would have seen the one with the last scene. You didn't see it on Outer Limits. You only saw the Cosmic Slop version where that last scene was totally taken out. Okay? Only those from back in the days know this. And they purposefully knew that some of us remembered it. That's why they resurrected it on a Cosmic Slop to make you think that that's where it came from. Okay? All right. So I'm going to add why. Okay, hold on. I'm going to talk about now how this is interconnected to the melanated extraterrestrials that are here. We talked about Simeon Toko. We talked about these melanated beings that, oh, and also I forgot to say, we also want to talk about the young school. Gosh darn it. Was it Rwanda? Oh my God, I should write these things down because there's so much information over the years. There was a school in Africa. I don't think it was South Africa. If someone can remind me, it's another school where they had contact with these black extraterrestrials and they actually expunged the original versions that were shown on YouTube. Does anyone remember? It was either South Africa, was it Rwanda? Was it, can someone remember? You remember the school when the little kids were talking about they were sitting in their classroom and these ships came down and these black, they were short with very straight hair, black, cosmic black, to the point where they were like, if you ever watched Mel the Martian on, was it Rwanda? It's Rwanda. Thank you, my love. You think so? Or no, it's Zimbabwe. It's Zimbabwe. You're right. It's Zimbabwe. Thank you. It's Zimbabwe. And remember, they were in school, it was a private school, mixed children of different backgrounds, like brown children, also, um, also, it's not from Cosmic Slop. Okay, it's not from Cosmic Slop, y'all. I know you think that, but when I saw it, it was on Outer Limits. Those who saw it before remember it was being shown on Outer Limits. What showed later is Cosmic Slop, as if they created it. And again, they may have changed who created it to psyop it. But when I saw it when I was younger, it wasn't Cosmic Slop. Okay, it was on regular TV. Anyway, we'll discuss that. But give some information as far as that is concerned too, so we can kind of um build a narrative. Anyway, the children in Zimbabwe. Do you remember these children were sitting in a classroom? The teacher saw it too. So this is everybody, the principal, everybody. There were these ships that came down, silver ships. They landed. The children were in awe. These little black beings, like Mel the Martian, y'all. You got to remember this, and I'm going to talk about it. Remember, because I've been part of this community. Those who just came in, you just came on the deck, so you don't know these things because you all just came in and you're placating like you're actually know about the extraterrestrials. Those of us who are contactees, we know all these narratives. We know the background on things because we've been spinning the block for a while. Okay, so remember, those children looked outside with their principals and their teachers. They saw these extraterrestrials came out. They were little black beings, black. Now, when you watch now. See, this is why I say it's important for us to save videos and to save them and copy them because they expunge and they get rid of things when they're trying to change so that you don't have this in your lexicon and or those who are newer don't see it. When those little children saw it, they denoted seeing black beings like Mel the Martian on Bugs Bunny, very dark beings, and they had straight hair and they would telepathically, like almost like, how the Greys have big black eyes, big black eyes. The children drew them. And the beings were showing them images of a time where the earth was going to be destroyed. They have to protect the earth. It was a wonderful documentary that time. If you get a chance, look at it. But what you're going to notice, y'all, they're not going to talk about what the beings look like. They changed. I share this with you because you don't realize that all these things that are connected to brown and black extraterrestrials are being hidden. They're purposefully being hidden because they don't want you to know that there are black extraterrestrials here. I'm going to go into another contact experience with a gentleman from Puerto Rico. Now, some of you remember I shared this video again. What's his name? Uh, uh, what's his last name? He's still on my Facebook. I can share the video later with him. I forgot his name because I've talked about him over the years. This was another gentleman from Puerto Rico. Big up to our Puerto Rican family. I'm not sure if it was in the Junca. Anyone who's been to Puerto Rico, there's a place called the Junca. I'm not sure if it's in the Junca. Okay. I think it was over by the Junca. Anyone who's from Puerto Rico, you know it. But there was, oh, what's his name? Oh, it's gonna come to me. because he actually did a video, and it was crazy because that's when I really knew. I only suspected that the government was going in and expunging information on Black extraterrestrials, melanated extraterrestrials, but this was the proof because one, this young Puerto Rican guy, it was a whole bunch of Puerto Ricans that they got extracted. They were taken on a ship. They all accounted for it. They actually did an interview in Spanish. So some of you remember I shared his video, really good video because they didn't really hide anything too much, but just the verbiage was purposefully, the narration was tweaked because they didn't want people to know who the beings were. He said this one Puerto Rican, it was a group of them, but one Puerto Rican, he had an interview. And again, I'll look at my page and I'll share with you guys later. He actually was the one they did an interview with, and he said in English, this is the English version. He says they asked who was contacted. He was like, yeah, these extraterrestrials. He said they were Black, not Negro. Listen to me, y'all. This, I've talked about it over the years. Some of you just came on the block with me. When he did the interview, they asked him about the extraterrestrials, and again, the extraterrestrials, like the children over in Zimbabwe, who talked about having seen these beings, and the beings telepathically showing them what happened to Earth if they're not taking care of it, if they don't take responsibility for their actions on the Earth. The same thing happens with him. Oh God, his name is on the tip of my tongue because he's on my Facebook page. Anyway, and he had an interview, and they asked him, like, what did these beings want? What did they show you? And he said they showed them the future of Earth, where if we don't take care of it, it's going to be destroyed, and that it's very important for us to be conscious. It was really the same thing as before, but when he said they said, did you know what they look like? He said yes, they were Black, not Negro. He said Black, but not Negro. Does that make sense to you? Why would someone purposefully distinguish Black from Negro? Okay. You know why he did that? Because he was prompted to not speak that they were denotedly connected to anything that looked like us. Okay. I have to bring that. God darn it. His name is on my, I hate, his name is on my tongue. Okay. I'll remember it and I'll share that with you when I get a chance. Okay. So it's very important for you to realize that there is a constant narrative of trying to hide any sort of connection to melanated extraterrestrials. And even in terms of those who there aren't any brown people being invited to the conferences. The only brown people that are invited to the conferences, which are two, is they're being invited because they don't have contact, and they're not saying they have contact with Negro, Black extraterrestrials. The reason why there's two brown men that get Coach Carlson is one, and Coach Carlson came out later. He didn't say this before. It was in more recent years. He said he was in contact with the Greys, which you know how I feel about the Greys. The Greys, a lot of times, especially if they're being contacted, are most likely military based. They're probably socially engineered and presented as aliens were really they're aliens, and that's why they accepted him so easily, because he fit the narrative of not having contact with melanated ETs. And you got to ask yourself, when people are having contact, the beings that would more have contact with you would have more genetic connection to you. They would have more of a connection to you. Why are the so-called not melanated people that are invited to the conferences, there's only two that I know of, are never saying that they have contact with melanated ETs. They'll say they have contact with lunars, clones, everything else except brown ETs. The one contactee that they knew was Dr. Blair. Dr. Blair was was an overt contactee. He talked about it publicly for a long time. He wasn't ever invited to a UFO conference. Riley Martin, who was an amazing contactee, who was invited over and over to Howard Stern, so Howard Stern could disrespect him, talk nasty to him, and belittle him in his contact. He was in contact with melanated ETs. Okay, from the women who are Charlene and Charlotte that were literally wrote the book From the Mothership to the Motherland. They were interviewed by this Canadian lunar woman who was so disrespectful, and I think Carrie Cassidy. No, I'm not sure if Carrie Cassidy interviewed them. I scrub that because I don't think she did. But it was a Canadian podcaster. I listened to it. It was a lunar woman, and all she did was question them, vilify them, scrutinize them. But if they were lunars that were having contact, they'd be like, "Oh, how was your experience?" It's a totally different kind of denigration. They're totally differently the way that they're treated, and it's almost like they're trying to create a form of suspicion or make it seem like it's not true or what have you. Okay. You got all these people in the so-called UFO community talking about they go on Mars every night blowing up aliens. You got people going to these UFO communities. They are high off their rocker, doing all kinds of psychedelic drugs, throwing up in the car when they're going to go speak. I mean, I've heard everything, y'all, and it's facts. When you go to some of these conferences, these people are not sober whatsoever. They're high. None of them are sober. Most of them are high, and a lot of them are getting drunk right before they speak and speak for people talking about their experiences. And you think that should be the way that we take in information? Because remember, if these beings are higher and coming from other vibratory frequencies that are beyond our physicality, how would they contact people that are the lowest? Why would they contact people that have the lowest vibratory frequency? What makes you think that they're contacting anything that's high or galactic or extraterrestrial or interterrestrial or intergalactic or interdimensional? Because if beings are contacting you, they meet you where you are. They match your vibration. And you're telling me you're going to conferences where people are smoking all kinds of governmental marijuana. They're going to dispensaries with all those chemicals, and there's spike proteins all in there. And then they go and make jokes about it, and they're high off the gorgon. These are the people that you give credence to that are contactees. But what about the others that didn't do drugs and were having contact and were cleaner vessels that had more of a connection to the extraterrestrials? Why then are those the ones that are nicely pushed to the side and never even incorporated in communities? Because those communities are ran by governmental CIA, dark ops, DARPA, and your Willy Wonka systems. Okay? That's why you'll see people come on, and I've talked about this whole UFO phenomenon with ETs. I've been on the block a long time. All of a sudden, everybody's a contact. Everybody knows about extraterrestrials. Everybody knows about the Anunnaki. Everybody's a Torian contactee. Where were these people years ago? Where were they before? Because they're flooding the whole UFO narrative and the community with people that are placaters, so that you can't differentiate between real contactees and others. And they want that right now because they are here. They are literally here on site. And it's better you get flooded with non-organic people in the community now, because remember, the UFO and ET community is very small. It has always been that way. People wouldn't ever come out, and even if they're having contact, they wouldn't necessarily talk about it. But even itself, it wasn't truly acceptable for people to speak on things of this nature. So it was a very nominal, small community. So now it's being flooded with everyone who's an expert. They got technology on their YouTube channels. They're talking about Arcturians. They're speaking of Arcturian. It's a lie. And you could tell it's a lie because you could tell when they began, and you could tell when they came in, and you could tell by the information they're giving you is very surface, generic, and it isn't coming from personal experiences or having connections to things years ago. If you're having contact with a lot of the interdimensionals, extraterrestrials, they've been contacting you from your youth. They've been contacting your mother or your grandmother. They generally go generationally. The contact isn't going to just happen now, it's been happening. Okay. And it's not to say that people can't have layers of interface with things, especially a lot of people do psychedelic drugs and then they get in contact with other interdimensional beings that way. But as far as beings contacting you, like you having a frequency that's high enough for them to touch you and interface with you is different than you having to turn your mind inside out in order for you to take a cheat sheet to go meet them. When they go meet you, it's a little different. Okay. But the information could be just as relevant, but your vibration matters. Okay. Why I bring this up is because right now, your president in the United States has made it a point to try to mitigate the extraterrestrials, the black ETs, the melanated Negro ETs that are now here. I talked about the contact I had and the phone call I got right before you saw all the orbs show up. Now, what came first, the orbs um uh all the orbs and the drones? And now they have a new term which they just basically created so that it confuses people and it changes, like they're propagating a new term so you stop using the word UFO. They do that purposefully, just like they propagated green extraterrestrials with antennas, and later on they change it, and just people, everybody accepts that the grays look a certain way now because people are very easily socially engineerable, and things trend to change narratives to pull you further away from the truth. What came first, the orbs or the drones? Now, anyone who used your critical thinking skills, you know that the orbs came first. And as a direct result, they sent out those drones that you've never seen before. Okay. So that you now, and then they change the terminology because they have all these online directed fake weaponry, algorithm weaponry people. And they made sure that those people were the ones bringing up this new terminology called UAPs. Okay. All of a sudden, now, if you're from the UFO community, you already know we've never used that terminology before. It's not even something that it just came up. It just was resurrected only when the orb showed up. You know that, right? Only when the orb showed up. That term wasn't utilized before. It only when because they needed to change the narrative. And I knew that Mr. Coach was a psyop because he was on a show. We just watched Zoomies. Big up to the Zoomies. We watch a show, and I knew he was a psyop because he didn't even know. So that's why I say they only implant people in these UFO communities who fill and satisfy the narrative that they want to project out to the collective. He had an interview talking about the so-called UAPs and the UFO and the drones, and he never said anything about the orbs. And he only brought up that they were only in New Jersey. Now you're telling me that this man is all in the UFO community. He was on all these podcasts. He's been on Gaia television. Gaia is a psyop, and most people on there are all governmental agents. Anyone who's on Gaia, I side eye them because Gaia is known to have mostly Agent Smiths on there that they purposefully put on there to psyop people's consciousness. Okay, that's just my opinion. Okay, but he was on Gaia. But it's funny to me, he had an interview. This is somebody who everyone denotes as being a UFO expert, but he only brought up the drones in Jersey. You're telling me that a UFO person who has all these phone calls and all this connection to all the UFO people, remember, when you're in the UFO community and something happens extraterrestrial, everybody calls you. Everyone's telling you things. People are sending you pictures. They're sending you emails. You're getting the hard core information influx to you because everybody knows you're about that life. So this man who supposedly is a mon Dieu, spokesperson for the UFO community, melanated man that everybody thinks is legitimate. He goes on a podcast and says only thing he brings up is the drones, and the only thing he brings up is Jersey. We all know that the drones were a byproduct of the orbs. How come he didn't bring it up? Not only didn't he bring up the orbs, but he only brought up New Jersey. How come he didn't know that all the orbs were showing up all over the place? In Pennsylvania, in New York, over in Georgia. They were showing up in England. They were showing up in France. They were showing over in Venezuela. They were showing up in Argentina. They were showing up in Vietnam. How come he didn't know that? But this is a person that y'all think is like the pinnacle of information on UFOs, though. I'm just saying, be careful, y'all. They've got these Agent Smiths that are really agents from the government, allegedly, right? This is my opinion. Literally agents of the government, Willy Wonka setting these so-called melanites out. And you know why they got those melanite agents right now? They got them set up right now. All these so-called melanite people are so-called, oh, the Anunnaki. I'm an expert in the Andromedans are the no, they only see the Andromedans that say in the Palladians, I'm an expert. I can speak to them, telepath. These are all agents. They're all being set up there because they want the melanated people to direct your energy, and they want to take your consciousness and they want to pull it away from legitimacy, because then you can be controlled. When I sat there and watched that man totally divert all the attention and the truth, and he literally diverted it away from what actually happened. Now, if we didn't witness it, if I didn't know any better, if I didn't watch it, I would have really believed this person, because remember, they're vetted. everybody invited them to all the conferences. They're like they're like they're renowned. Everyone respects them. Out of the blue, they're invited. They're on Gaia. They talk about all the Egyptians and all the technology in Egypt. They're like the bomb.com if you didn't know any better. But I watch, and that's how Agent Smiths will get you, y'all. You have to utilize your discernment, y'all. Use your discernment. You got to watch past behavior. My ex hates when I say this. Past behavior is a good indication of future behavior. You don't even have to listen to what I say. If we all watched, and many of you were on here when we were seeing all the orbs, light orbs coming out of the ocean, Florida, Cape Canaveral, over in those areas, being coming out of the ocean, people seeing them on the cruise lines, fishermen seeing them and filming the actual orbs popping out of the water, going underneath the water. We watched this in real time. So you would have had to be present to notice it. And then when you get to see an agent, a plant, then see, I have my spidey senses up all the time because I've been about this life for a long time. So you can sense when people aren't being truthful and honest. But they don't do it overt, because the point is they can't let you know that they're Agent Smiths. They can't let you know that the government planted them there. They have to fill you with glamorized falsettos so that you really legitimize them. But it's when the real time that they are told by their handlers that you aren't to bring up the orbs that were all over the place. That's why you couldn't see it online. If you look online, you don't see anything about the orbs anymore. How come they're hiding it? There was orbs that just showed up in Florida just a moment ago, right? They shut down the Keys because there was a fire in Miami. But at the same time, people in Florida were taking images. The fishermen were seeing images of orbs popping out the water. I just saw an image that our homegirl just showed us on from Vietnam with a whole purple circular luminous in the sky. All these things are showing up, but the so-called contactees, none of them are talking about it. And the melanites, you got to be careful, y'all. I'm talking to my melanated people because they utilize our ignorance to basically to control what we perceive and what we legitimize. We're very easily manipulated, especially if we see another brown person talking about something, because we think automatically they're legitimized, especially if they look like they have money, they look like they're accepted by the UFO. That's why that person had to be accepted by the UFO community on Gaia, because you wouldn't legitimize them anyway. Because most of you didn't know who Delbert Blair is unless you came from our community. Most of you didn't know who Riley Martin is, because you didn't even know that Charlene and Charlotte, who were the twins who talked about the books of their contactee with aliens. You didn't know that, right? Because those aren't the ones who are being uplifted. The things that they know. They talk about me at these conferences, and not once. I had my own big up to those who went to my UFO conferences. I'm the first woman of color who ever had a UFO conference, one in Florida and one in New Orleans. Big up to y'all who attended and understand that I didn't need to be invited to places, and that was purposefully done because they talk about me at these conferences. But the reason why I'm not invited, because I'm in contact with melanated female ETs, a host of others. But that isn't something they're going to ever let me talk in front of people and tell you that are there. Now let's go into the government and what's going on now. Okay, so when we're talking about now the extraterrestrials that are here on deck, this is a theory that is, I'm almost totally, no, I can't remember. I have to vet things out. I'm a Sag, so I need more credence. I know I had contact with those melanites, those soldier type of beings before, but I'm going with my clinician head and I'm watching and I'm using my spiritual discernment, and I'm also using my critical thinking skills from seeing how things play out and seeing it over a long period of time. I'm watching as many melanated people supported Trump, which I wouldn't fault them for. And note this, I'm very impartial to this. I don't fault melanated people supporting Trump this way around, because what happened is that the other side did extreme measures to make brown people feel a certain way. It's purposefully done. It's to control. It's like social. It's psyops. It's like constant psyops, and then controlling, like social engineering, and then building like narratives that would make a certain type of people or certain people feel a certain way, like making women feel like their needs or their support, their reproduction rights are being taken away from them. They know how to do this really well. Okay, they're psychopaths with a layer of scientific mastery and have the art of manipulation down to a science. Okay, so for that being said, I know why a lot of brown people supported him, but I don't know if brown people, that's what I'm saying. When they were caping for Trump, I don't cape for anyone. He is another leg of the same side. It is one wing of the bird and another wing of the bird, Democrat and Republican, and all the feathers are the other groups under one hub. They are all ruled. Anybody who doesn't know that or still perceives that he is doing something in alignment with you, I think you're under a psyop. You're still under social conditioning. You are suffering from Stockholm syndrome to know that there isn't any voting. There isn't any such thing as choice. They give you the illusion of choice so that makes you feel better, so that you won't overthrow their dusty behinds out of their positions, which they didn't earn. They just basically took with a lie and you kind of bought into it. That's what I know. Okay. So many brown people supported Trump. Okay. But none of them, all you so-called people who supported this being, because I don't even know if that's Trump anymore, especially seeing what I'm seeing now. I don't even know if that's him, the original one. There's many versions of them. Remember, they use clones and replicants to, to kind of deal with when they go. I don't believe it's him. I think it could be a version of him in many different times. It doesn't even matter because they're all under the same umbrella. They're all under the dark ops. They're all Jesuits, Zionists. They're all dark Kabbalists. They're Satanists. All of them are under that. Okay? I don't care what you say. You can say what you want to say. You can say, oh, he's wonderful. He's a savior. His own people, MAGA, are coming against him right now because he put Muskie up in the position of mitigating certain things that he isn't qualified for, no voted for. Okay. But that's nor here or there. So Trump comes into power. And for all you Christians who are so mentally ill, I don't even know why. I don't even know if you noticed. You're Christian, and I always hope that one day sometimes you'll speak up on things. I don't know if that you're getting tax cuts and that's why you don't speak on things. That could be you're the same people who set up your people to take the shot. So maybe that's why. You were the people who opened up your church to allow a bioweapon to go into the veins of people, and you take no responsibility when half your congregation drops dead. Okay, that's just my opinion. Okay, so you're probably the same mother freakers who are caping for him because you're just like him. Okay, when people say, "Oh, I support him," but you say you didn't want to you didn't feel it's right for anyone to promote the Kukarachi kill shot, but then the man doesn't apologize. He says he wants to take full responsibility of fast tracking a bioweapon to you, and you still think he's for you. That's what I'm saying. Some of you are under mind control. If you caping for him after he's still, that's what I'm saying. You deserve what comes with that because he's not lying to you. He's telling you. He said he takes full responsibility for projecting the bioweapon to you, and all these people. We don't want to talk about the millions of people that are no longer here because of his initiation. Okay. You could cape for him all you want. The other one is a clown pooping in the White House, bringing all your tax money and all your Social Security, going to stranger danger in your country. That's what I'm saying. They're just different sides of the same bird. Okay. So that being said, you all voted him. Some of you cape for him, brown people, and I'm talking brown people, and you didn't even question when he went to be inaugurated, and his wife insectillion because she looked like insect and she had the ritual hat on that Beyonce wore in Lemonade video. And I told you that the sea star that demisted herself in the etheric realm, that hat, she was wearing a whole occult hat. Okay. um which was interesting. And y'all didn't say a word, Christians, because I would expect you to say it. Like I shouldn't say it because it doesn't really affect me, right? But how come you guys didn't say it? You're all about Jesus Christ, right? And you believe that God is king or whatever the case is. Where's Candace Owens? She didn't even say anything when her love for Trump should have been questioned when he didn't even put his hand on the Bibles that his insectillion wife held up to him. Did no one notice that? Did no one notice that the man did not put his hand on the Bibles? Because you can't put the hand on your Bibles if you are giving allegiance to the Zionist Moloch king, the gray, the super gray, right? How come? You can't put your hand on the Bible when you just took $100,000 from AIPAC and they told you that you can no longer be aligned with Christianity if you want to keep that money in your life. Did you notice that? Christians, you don't question him? Y'all should have questioned him. Because again, it shouldn't affect me, but I noticed it. No, I didn't hear one Christian YouTuber talk about that. That's what I'm saying. What is YouTube, all psyops? And I didn't hear any of these so-called whistleblowers talking about it. How come? Maybe a few, maybe a few. I can't. No, I'm not gonna front. There were a few talking about it on like Rumble and those other sites. Like, yeah, a couple of them. Okay. So he didn't put his hand on that. But for all you brown people who supported him, how come when we're watching the inauguration on Martin Luther King's birthday, so as to disrespect you, you have a whole colonizing devil South African who is from the family of the murderers who went into South Africa, stealing land and creating the most lethal form of apartheid. They are the blueprint of all the apartheid that's going all over the world. On stage. And there was no remnants on Martin Luther King's Day of brownness, except the clown preacher who came up there acting like a fixture of insanity. It was insane. I felt like I was being like punked. They had one preacher come up there that was a brown preacher. They had all the faiths, the Jewish faith, the Christian faith, all of these different faiths coming on and talking online, at the inauguration. And of course, the brown person they picked the most egregious and like a buffoonery of just diabolicalness, speaking on Trump being like his God on Martin Luther King's birthday. But needless to say, there was nobody brown on that stage except the wife of Vance, and she was Indian. Okay. But y'all all voted for him. And especially brown men caped for him the most. Because brown men like to, a lot of times what happens is that, they felt like he was more in alignment with his views and values. Okay. I just want to know if you noticed that, because when I talk about the extraterrestrials, you're going to talk about, oh, where are you getting this from? I'm building the bridge. This man who you cape for is Martin Luther King's birthday. He's saying he wants to make that dream come true, but all of the laws and all these new regulations and all of these forms of what are these new laws that he's creating are all uniformly, they're anti-brown. And he just said he wanted to kick out all the immigrants out of the country. And he wanted to put tariffs on all these countries and put restrictions on all these countries. But the countries that he's only doing that mostly to are all brown. There are people that are all in America that have been here a long time, like West Indians from Jamaica, from Trinidad, people have been there from Kenya, from Nigeria, that have been in America, had long-term visas that or even born here, that are being picked up by ICE and put in holding centers for like 10 hours to 10 days, and no one's saying anything about that. But you got a whole Chinese organization with Chinese police stations in Queens, New York, over in California. It's like mini China, all over the place. And I don't see ICE going over there picking up all the people, because Chinese were coming in here in the droves for the last 20 years. How come they aren't picking those people up? How come he said he's getting rid of all the immigrants, but then he just created a law to extract all the bloodline of the satanic colonizing devils over in South Africa? And some of them are already relocated in Mississippi as we speak. But y'all voted for him, right? Now you're going to say, oh, you sound really political. You sound really bitter. You sound like a bitter Black woman and so on. I'm telling you, this is extraterrestrial based. Did you see the 22 countries that he basically put on a red list? And none of those countries were the main countries that were coming into the border. Why would you put a restriction on Utrea? Why would you put a restriction on Somalia and Sudan? Why do you have those restrictions? What did they do to us? So you put it on Sierra Leone. What did Sierra Leone do to the United States? South Africa? South Africa for standing up for all the genocide and the apartheid and all the murders that happened by Europeans that came in the country and were trying to take over all the land masses when they weren't the majority? Why do you have restrictions on countries that did not do anything to the United States that are in Africa? And I find it very interesting that the places that you put restrictions on, United Fakes, are the same places with connections to some of the extraterrestrials of ancient times, the bloodlines of the ancient Israelites. Because you know the Eritreans, the Ethiopians, the Somalians, Sudanese, they're not only connected to Sierra Leone's, the South Africans, there's a bloodline of, and also, not only that though, he has Caribbean islands on there, y'all. What did St. Lucia do to St. Lucia is where all Americans go get married. That's, you know, you guys know that was where my father's from, right? Why do you have a restriction on St. Lucia? Why do you have a restriction on what is it? Barbuda. Barbuda is a very small island. Most Americans don't even know about it. Barbuda. Why would you have restrictions unless you knew there were bloodlines of extraterrestrials that you wanted to keep limited so that you could be able to monitor beings that you can't identify from us to them? This whole concept of segregation, which I accept. I think, you know, like I said, I've talked about this before. Melanated people in the United States, because really in the Caribbean and South America, probably was an issue then, but they did the best when they were segregated. They just did better for the communities. They were more protected. They were able to mitigate their lifestyle and have healthier children without people taking their organs and giving it to straight up devils and, you know, harming them and putting them into privatized prisons who utilize that access to them to not only get their organs but also to control the strongest of the men in those communities. Does anyone ask who's the head of these privatized prisons? Do you ever ask who their names are? How come nobody on these so-called conscious channels ever talk about that? They're all conscious, right? What about the conscious community? Why, how come they don't ever bring up who owns these privatized prisons? Why don't we know their names? Why is that being allowed? Everybody wants to talk about consciousness, and why don't you ever ask the names of those people and what's going on there and what kind of eugenic systems and diabolical biological weaponry is being used and their blood types are being used to make bioweapons to communities. So I believed segregation is where brown people probably did better, brown Americans, all communities that were brown. Just like I believe the Jewish people, they don't, you know, Jews that are Ashkenazi, they don't let other people have access to their blood. How come the Jews don't let people have access to their blood and their children and their organs? How come they don't go to your schools? When they have ambulances, big up to Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Jews, you know, the Ashkenazi Brooklyn Jews. You know, when they got their own yeshivas, they got their own ambulances that pick up their own people. They don't let us touch them. Why brown people do you let other people touch you when they don't like you? When they talk about your children behind closed doors? When the most biased and most nastiest comments about you, about being a monkey, about being subhuman, about you being just lesser, about that happens behind closed doors. Why would you let anyone have access to your children? Or why would you buy music by people that do those things to you? Why would you even buy products from them? Why would you interface or work for the companies to lift their families and degrade yours? Why would you take any handouts of welfare from people that are purposefully poisoning you so that they can subjugate and control your reproduction? I'm just asking a question. This is not, that's just, I'm just asking because I see other communities where I think it's healthy. I'm not mad at the Jews for doing it because I think, hey, they feel like they were being subjugated and attacked. So they basically kept everything with their own people so they don't have people who hate them messing with the children and themselves. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think brown people, especially from the Americas, because now you know you're the indigenous and now you know they lied to you, you should really probably be really think of if he's resegregating and it's not for what you think, it's not because of that, but segregation was a better system for people of color because of how don't and only desegregation happened was so they could have access to you and know what you were doing. That's all that was. It wasn't for your freedom. It wasn't to give you equality. Had nothing to do with that. It's to get access to you so that they could weaponize your blood against you and they could imprison your strongest males and they can incept your bloodline totally and to control your numbers of reproduction. Because I told you there's 60% of brown Americans, indigenous Americans in America. They told you you're 13%. That's a lie. And if you want to further confirm this, I'm not hostile. I'm just telling you facts. You can always confirm these things because, you know, FleurBrun is very much a historian, not as much as a historian as Rod Hayes, but I know things from being in the mix for a long time. You could look this up. It's all the foreigners that come into the country that are from India, from all forms of Middle East, even Spanish, like Cuban, some Caribbean islands. When they come into the country, they're automatically stated on their paperwork as white. Why would they do that? Why do you think they do that, y'all? For X and giggles, right? No, they did it so they could fudge the numbers because they didn't want you knowing that 60% of the population in the United States, I'm not talking about everywhere else, is 60 plus, I know this for a fact, is melanated, indigenous, so-called African Americans. And in order for you not to know that, they had to fudge the numbers to make it seem like others had higher numbers than you. You could look it up. Lunars, you should feel like you've been scapegoated because really that's a disadvantage to you because you're thinking that you have the numbers in the United States and you don't. And that's purposefully done by your government. So if you have a problem with that, don't come from the melanated people because they had nothing to do with that. That's what the government, the wonderful Willy Wonka system that you entrust with your children, with your values, and you trust them to tell you the truth. They've been utilizing you as a scapegoat for a reason. And you should be pissed at them. Brown people already know because they already are aware of that. They're in the psyops too. You know what I mean? But anyway, what does this have to do with extraterrestrials? Okay. This has to do with extraterrestrials because your Muskie and your Trumpsky know that there are black ETs here, y'all. They have been sighted. The black extraterrestrials are back, y'all, in full form. And they don't know, they can't identify me from them and them from me. And in order for them to mitigate and try to keep them away, that's why you didn't see any brown people in that room on the inauguration. They don't trust no brown people because they don't know who they are. They don't know because remember, Simeon Toko said he was coming back. Those so-called militant black extraterrestrials that Norman Brugman talked about, they're back. The Andromedans, which are a bunch of sea stars that look just like me, that's who I come from, they're here. How can you tell the difference? Because you created a narrative. Now I understand why they created racism and bias because they wanted to make sure they separated us because they could not tell us from the interdimensionals and extraterrestrials and the others. They couldn't identify because we look alike. We had the same phenotype. They cannot, there's small variations with the extraterrestrials, but they can't identify it. They're not identifying markers because they look like us. All of these restrictions to Eritrea, Ethiopia, Somalia, Sudan, Yemen, why do you think they're bombing the heck out of them? They're here. It's inevitable, y'all. The gig is up. What they're doing, that's why they're doing things so quickly and so quickly and so brandishly and so reckless to the point where you got the whole security, the foreign security texting military war plans to a freaking reporter. That's how off they are. They're doing so many things recklessly because they don't have time. They got to bomb the heck out of Palestine. They got to get rid of them Semites real quick. They trying to do it quick and easy. They trying to get rid of them Syrians. They got to kill them off in over in Yemen. You can't have Semites there when you got these so-called Israelite bloodlines that are about to be resurrected and extracted, and also for those who are connected to them to start to have contact. Contact is happening as we speak, y'all. The black extraterrestrials are here. They're on site, and your president and his dusty, musky bioborg Elon are trying their best to mitigate the the enclave of beings that are here that they can't identify. So that's why you're hearing all of this conversation about segregation. What do you think they did to Japan when they had the encampments? Remember when we had the so-called fake war with the Japanese? What did they do? They didn't trust the Japanese because they were going to war with them, so they couldn't tell friend from foe. What did they do? They pulled all the Japanese into encampments because they couldn't tell who was their friend and who was their foe. Whenever they're talking about resegregation, whenever they're trying to keep and mitigate the brown, and look at the countries, y'all, you got to look at the countries, because when you look at the, big up to my family, because one of my mom's and dad's best friends is from Barbuda. Big up to her family from Barbuda. Do any of you know Barbuda? Beautiful island. But you know what's interesting? Barbuda's population is a very small island. Do you know what's very unique about them? Let's see if some of you know. Let's see if some of you know. Like let's play a guessing game. Anybody have family from Barbuda? What's very unique about the people from Barbuda? And it's interesting because when it was on a list, my mom's, rest in power to my mom's friend, Dorothy. They were best friends my whole life. My mom and dad had best friends from Barbuda. What's very different about the people from Barbuda, y'all? Let's see if any of you know. Some of you don't know because you may not know the island. I want to see if anybody from who knows Barbuda, because this will be a straight answer for those who know Barbuda. Not Bermuda, it's Barbuda. That's why I say most of you don't know about Barbuda. It's not Bermuda, it's Barbuda. Let's see if some of you know people from Barbuda. No, it's not Bermuda. Everyone in here, I'm from the Caribbean, right? I know that you don't know these islands. There's different islands that are not like St. Bart's. There's other islands that you guys don't know. It's Barbuda. Look it up. Barbuda. Buda. Buda. There's other islands. Barbuda. Does anyone know people from Barbuda? There you go. Thank you. Barbuda. That's really sad that Americans, that's the Caribbean islands, y'all. That's how our education system has failed. Yes, they're darker skin, but what's another? Yes, they're very beautifully cosmic brown, but what's another trait of Barbudans? It's not Barbados, y'all. Oh my gosh. Do we have to go into the islands? This is Americans, you should know the different Caribbean islands. My God. You guys got to know the Caribbean islands. You don't know the little islands like Montserrat. Do you even know about Montserrat? There's Montserrat. Do you guys know about Montserrat? Montserrat, Barbuda, St. Bart's. Not all the islands are popular. Barbuda is very small. Okay. Some of you don't know. I'm not gonna hold you on it. Barbuda. Okay. Okay. Nobody knows. Okay, so you guys don't know about them. Yes, it's Nessa Antigua. Thank you. Okay, so some of you don't know. One of the main characteristics of Barbudas, they're very tall. They're very tall people. Okay? That's one of their qualities. And why is that important? Because once I saw the list and I saw Barbuda on there, because my mom's friends, best friends, are from Barbuda, and I grew up with their children too. I was like the automatically thing I thought it was like, oh, those are the tall white offspring. That's an offspring. You know how we look at Barron and we say, okay, when the tall whites claim Barron and Trump, I could see it because look at Barron. And as soon as they put Barbuda on the list, I was like, oh my God, that's one of the tall blacks. They're the bloodline of the tall blacks, probably the Centaurians. They're very tall and dark. Beautiful people, very sweet people. Barbudans, if you never met them before, they're very beautiful people. Big ups to the Barbudans in here. Very beautiful people, very kind people. Okay? I don't get after you because you should know Americans, you should know your Caribbean islands because it's your closest islands. So you should know about Montserrat, Barbuda, St. Bart's, St. Kitts, St. Thomas. You should know Guadeloupe, Martinique. Those are more west. Dominican Republic, Cuba, you know all those, okay? But the other smaller islands like Antigua, Trinidad, many of you know the major ones, but you probably don't know about Dominica, which is not Dominican Republic, Dominica, Guadeloupe, Martinique. Those are more westward islands. Our American family, please do due diligence. I hope you're teaching your children about the Americas. Because if you're from America, you should know your Caribbean islands. That's all part of Americas. Okay. I think it's very sad because maybe because they're melanated is why people don't care or know about them. Okay. But it's very important that you should know that. These are the Americas. We should know all of the parts of the Americas. And the sad part is that United fakes because their educational system is garbage and they just propagate things that are lies and misnomers to inflate their representation in the world. But the very thing that they should actually talk about and should be happy to connect to is their connection to all of those in the Americas. Okay. Anyway, it's not, and I'm not shading anybody. I know it's sad that you don't know the little islands. You should. And if I taught you something new, start looking into that. It's beautiful places. There are islands that are just as beautiful as all the other places. You can go and visit them. They're very beautiful people. St. Martin, St. Kitts. St. Martin has a French side and a Dutch side. Did you know that? Okay, so these are places that you can visit. Have beautiful history. And I talk about all the time. Some of you are not aware of my our lineage in the Caribbean. Me being mostly Carib, I'm over 60% Carib, which is for the Calienca tribe, which we come from South America. That's our migration pattern. But I'm also mixed with Taino. And Taino, many of you know that Taino in Haiti, La Hispaniola, there's a large concentration of Taino Indians. You call them blacks, but that's a lie. United States lied to you. Those are Tainos. Tainos had very dark skin. Okay. Tainos in La Hispaniola, those are Tainos. Cuba has Tainos. St. Kitts and Croix, those are Tainos. Okay. So all those islands have a lot of Taino history. Arawak, you talk about the Arawak, the connection. Those are our indigenous people in the Caribbean. Okay. So those who don't know, now you know. So you can't say, oh, I heard about, now you know. This is a good historical thing. Start looking into it. Beautiful Islands is part of the Americas. Start paying attention. But why does it matter? I'm talking about the tall blacks, y'all. They're here. Norman Brookram, rest in power. The tall blacks are back. So Simeon Toko's people are back, y'all. The Andromedans are on site. And I actually think the Andromedans are more here. Remember, I'm in contact with them, but I actually think the Andromedans are more an issue by how they keep constantly vilifying brown women. Whenever they do things like that, it's because something is around that they want to counter. The Andromedans are a group of melanated women. They have twists. Usually they have twists. Those are the women I've been in contact with. They also have a connection to the ants, the giant ant beings. Okay, a form of insectoid. Okay, those are the ones who are also connected to the ant beings that are connected to the Hopi, right? You know the Hopi, right? The Andromedans have a close relationship to the ant beings that also have a close relationship with the Hopi people, the Hopi indigenous group. Okay, very important that you know these things because the tall blacks are here. And Trump is keeping them out. He don't want no more you blackies coming into the country. He don't want you blacks coming in the country because he can't identify you. He can't tell you from the UFO community. All the orbs are here. You got blacks on site. He's scared. Him and the dusty, musty, bioboric muskie. They're frightened. They can't identify you from the other ones because they created. That's why that now I understand why they created black and white. They got to separate you because all the extraterrestrials coming right now on site are melanated, y'all. And I'm not lying to you. I'm 1000% sure that they're here. That's why he's putting a division. That's why he's trying to put brown people. We think it's about resegregation. Actually, I think it's an entrainment camp, just like they put the Japanese in. Big up to all my Japanese family. You know how you felt? Japanese, when you living in a country, you contribute, you're going to work, you feel like you're part of the environment, and they go into war with your people, and they don't even want you around. They put you in entrainment camps. It's like we can't trust none of you Asians. And I'm sure some Chinese and other people got thrown in there too because they can't tell the difference between a Japanese, a Filipinian. Well, Philippines you could tell, or someone from Korea. They can't tell because everybody's uniform because they got these prejudices. They can't tell, so they probably put a whole bunch of others in there too, just for good measure. You look a little Japanese, okay? We can't tell the difference. because we're too prejudiced. We've been socially conditioned to think everybody's our enemy. As long as you aren't looking like us, you go in them treatment camps. That's what the segregation is about, y'all. The aliens, the black extraterrestrials are here. The melanated extraterrestrials are here on site, and they are uniformly Trump, your God, your orange God, has literally created separations and restrictions of the others who have some of that genealogy that's very close visually to those other beings. He wanted problems. And for the rest of you Negroes, all of us, they not like us. They not like now I understand why that song meant so much. They not like we thought, see, you thought in the song Kendrick Lamar was talking about the lunars or the other people. But what if I told you that Kendrick Lamar most likely was talking about the brown extraterrestrials? They not like us. They not like us. Maybe they bombing the heck out of Palestine, trying to get rid of them. Some of them are some of them extraterrestrials over there too. I don't make light of that. I don't want to say. Let me also say, because I got to put it out there. I always make my statements because I'm a non-participant. I haven't aligned with Trump. Please don't ever say I'm aligning with Trump. That is not somebody. I wish him and his alien insectilian wife all the best. She's looking real insect, more so. The hat, I don't know what kind of which Bruja made that for her. You could at least made that look a little more attractive. Which Brujana made that hat for her? You didn't do a very good job. She looked really insectilian. You could have made her look a little more humanoid. I don't know if she was shape shifted. I don't know what was going on. She looked real wild. You know what I mean? No one can look like a Jackie O, which probably set up her husband. Okay, with the CIA. You heard that? Did you hear the tape? Word on the curb. Did you hear that tape, yo? Did you hear it? When Jackie O was talking to the president, she was flirting with him right after her husband got killed. See, that's what happens when you cheat on your wife. See, she gonna get you back. See, Jackie O sat quietly and watched you stick your wand all in Marilyn Monroe. Made her embarrassed because she's bougie and stushy. She don't like being embarrassed. She's supposed to be the epitome of like elitism, and you embarrassed her with Marilyn Monroe, where she thought it was a skank, and you thought she was gonna get her lick back. Listen, as much as I know all those other people, like they said, the Israelis were involved, the CIA was involved. I think Jackie was involved too. Actually, I think she headed it. She was like, "Motherfucker, you cheating on me? You trying to make me look like a fool?" I actually think she probably is the one. She probably was like, "Yo, come on in." That's when men, you need to learn. You think you're getting away with stuff, but you mess with the right one. She set you up. You sleeping around with all these hoochies. She got to watch you and her saying, "Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. President. You listen. She already had the dagger on you. I'm not saying it was right to take out JFK, but you messing with the wrong one. She probably called the CIA in Israel and said, "Yo, I want this motherfucker out. He just embarrassed me. I gotta go to the country club. My girlfriends are laughing at me." Anyway, I'm sorry. Meryl, but why couldn't you give her a better hat? She looked really insectilian. I'm not dissing her, Trump. You could have Melania could wear a better Bruja hat. I know it's a witch hat. It probably has spells, all kinds of spells and Satanist Babylonian spells and sigils all inside of it. Maybe the brim couldn't only hold but so many sigils and satanic ritualistic manifestations. You know what I mean? I just think you should have picked a better hat. It was looking real shady, Trump. But what I'm saying about that is that you got to realize that I don't side with any of them. I'm not siding with the pooping president. He couldn't even talk. He was sniffing children. He was molesting his own daughter, said he molested her in the shower. You think I'm gonna line with the whole pooping president? What was his name? Joe Biden? He looked like Kazoo. He looked like a whole alien. His head looked like Kazoo. If you watch the Jetson, he looked like a whole alien himself. I don't even know if he was real. His son was snorting up the contracts, probably dicing up the snorting up contracts, contra contracts with all kinds of countries. You think I didn't align with him either. They're all listen, y'all. That's what I'm saying. When I talk about your orange god, and then I talk about the pooper, they all won. I don't. I see them all the same. They're all in cahoots with nefarious beings. Those grays that they're working, the Moloch God, the Jesuits, is all this in the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds. They're all one and the same. You think that they're different. Now there may be sectors within them. I don't doubt there's like a tier, like a hierarchy within the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the remember. And then you thinking that there's brown people that no, those are the henchmen of the Darrows. The Boule, Boule, we were talking about. I think the Boule is an offset of the freaking Moors, the ones that set up the Americas. You know, the Moors are extraterrestrial. You know that, right? Those are from the Martians. And the whole concept of Mars, remember I told you I had contact with these little Martians, these little brown beings. They have the Sampaku eyes. That's why you see, someone like, Oprah Winfrey with the Sampaku eyes. You ever see the Sampaku eyes? Look at the Sampaku eyes with Oprah Winfrey and all of them. All them. All them. They not like us. They're not like us. What do you say? They not like us. They remember he was like Fugazi. So corny. They not like they're all the same. Listen, they got hierarchies and they got treaties amongst them. You got the Greys, that's who they worshiping, and they have an anal sex. They got all kinds of different shapes of anal probes in their butts. They're probably wearing it when they go inside and talk to you. Okay. They got the insectilian queens taking over men's minds. Like you listen, look at Kim Kardashian. She told you who she was. She came out as a bug one Halloween. You thought I was being shady and just hating. You're like, FleurBrun, why are you such a hater? Because she's cute. She's an sextillion. They all look cute because they put you under the mind control. If you saw what she really looked like, you'd probably be disgusted. She's probably got a mind control. She's probably got a shape shifting technology that makes you see her in a certain way. She looks just like the one that's doing spirit cooking on a wall. You don't think there's a reason why they all do this freaking thing when they talk? You trust any of them? All of them sit down doing this, y'all. Oh, so I'm the president, and why are you doing this? Did you see the inauguration when Trump's son did this and his wife had to tell him to stop because it was too obvious? All these nefarious extraterrestrials or interdimensional, they might just be beings from another timeline too that came and hijacked here. Okay, they not like us. The Boulets. The Boulets is not low, y'all. They are from the Moors. You guys do you forget about the Moors? The ones that set up the whole Americas? Do you not realize that in the who has the date? Where are the Moors, the Moorish community? What about the dates in 17, what was it, 17 something? How come, and you think I'm lying? Because remember, I know history because I read it. I didn't go over Google. I didn't go to Chat GBT. I went to libraries and I actually went to the RISM library, which was a forbidden library in the United States that moved every 2 weeks that my Professor Jeffries, big up to Leonard Professor Jeffries that sent me to the RISM library in Manhattan that moved every 2 weeks and it had all of the books that were banned from the United States. See, when you get access to that, then you start talking to people. I could do light languages. I could do light languages. They didn't go to those libraries. So I saw some things. When you go to a library with all the censored books, you get to see some things. But you know what I know? Why is it that you guys don't know your Moorish history and that the United States, their capital was in Morocco? Who was connected to Morocco as the Moors? The United States capital used to be in Morocco, y'all. See, the young people may not know that because they don't have the lexicon, unless they had elders that were into that kind of study, they wouldn't know that. Your capital was in Morocco. Morocco, the reason why Italian women are big tatas like me, dark hair, dark eyes in Sicily, Naples, all the south part of it. The people from Spain over there, like in outside and all those places have darker skin. Even parts of Turkey and also where is it? Greece. Why they look darker? Because they were mixing with the black Moors, the Martians. When freaking the retard, I'm sorry, that's not appropriate. I take that back. That was very inappropriate. I take that back. I rebuke that. The the stunad, where's my Italian? The stunad, when the stunad called Christopher Columbus, and that wasn't his name, y'all. That's Cap. When he came into the ocean, because remember he thought he was going to India. Who did he see in the waterways with the gold eye-ocular thing, gold, with all these beautiful fabrics of silk and turbans? Who did he see in the middle of the ocean in a little boat with a gold ocular looking? Who did he see, y'all? Who did he see? He saw the Moors in the middle of the ocean. They got a whole big boat, and they in the middle of the ocean with a little ocular thing, gold. Those are black. Who are those beings that they keep covering their heads, the Olmec heads, all over the Americas, all from Mexico, in Guatemala and Honduras, over in Panama, all the way going into North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Georgia, New York. Where are those Moorish heads? Oh, did I say that? Olmec heads? Who are they depicting, y'all? See, the problem is that people are suffering from Stockholm syndrome and being very heavily conditioned and socially engineered by your governments. Who are those heads? And it's the heads that have bodies inside of the ground. Who are they depicting in the Americas? No one. Listen, that last episode with Delbert Blair, Dr. Delbert Blair, and he had that trucker colon. Let me give you a resurrection for those who are new to me. Please put a like on the video if you're up for the extraterrestrial, the black extraterrestrial announcement. When that last episode, this is, and I have to, I like to give myself props a little bit because, I got to remember. This is why I say all those who are coming new to our community, they don't know these things because they're not like us. They're just new. They're plants. Or they just want to act like they know extraterrestrials, but I'm sure they'll repeat everything I say. So remember, this will also let you know who's a psyop because they'll listen to this whole podcast and then they'll make a podcast expounding on what I said and then acting like they're authentic. So big up to D Nice and the other chick that likes to follow me and make up narratives based on what I speak of because they don't have that because they're fake. They're phony. So they basically watch my podcast and they're gonna make a podcast, expound, and then they'll rename it. Watch y'all. The Anunnaki. The Nigerians. Watch it. It's crazy. It's psyop is real. But anyway, you got to remember when the last episode, I'm going to speak to it because some of you may have heard me say this over the years, but some of you are new. It was one. That's why they took Blog Talk off, y'all. Big up to those who told me about Blog Talk. I gotta get my stuff off Blog Talk. That's why they took off Blog Talk. Because remember, I used to have Aquarius Rising, the Ninth Gate. Many of you were on that show and listen to that show all the time. But they had all these other podcasts, and one of them was with Dr. Delbert Blair. I think Tony, which was a friend of his channel, really good to help Dr. Blair. He was the one who hosted the show. But I'm going to talk about what Dr. Blair talked about when he had a guy call in who's a Virginia truck driver, okay, to further stick the nail in the coffin. So on this episode on Blog Talk, right, Dr. Blair, somebody calls in, ring, ring, ring. Hey, Dr. Blair, I really love you. No, but I had to tell you what happens to me. I'm a trucker. I'm a black melanated trucker. I'm a brother. Okay. I had to take, my homeboy called me, a lunar guy, and he said, hey, I'm not feeling well. Can you take my route for me? He was like, sure, bet. I could take it for you. Makes a little extra money. So he talks about how he took this route. Now, usually truckers, sometimes if they can't make it, it's kind of like, just, I'll work for you. I'll take your route for you. It helps the guy out. He wasn't feeling well, right? So now you have this guy, this trucker talks about he took this route. It was Virginia. So I know. I'm not sure if it was West Virginia, or some of you may know. I don't know if it was West Virginia or not. So he took this route, and then he came upon this huge tunnel, like it was just a big hole, and it's like in a mountain. So he wasn't accustomed. He never took this route before, but he figured, it'll be a quick, probably just, you go through the tunnel and you come out the other side. So he's telling the story, y'all. That's what I'm saying. The blog talk episode, I wish I could reference you, but they took it off. Okay? Because they don't want you to know these things. So he drove in, and he was driving. He's like, oh my God. He was getting a little nervous because there didn't seem to be any openings in this tunnel. He's first time he's taking a route, it's fine. It seems like, he's following the directions because it's got arrows. But then he started to notice something, and he got scared. Now, when he says it, y'all, I wish Tony, if anyone could contact Tony from Dr. Blair's camp, Tony probably has the reference to this a little better. I don't know if he kept the episode, but if Tony can release the episode, it would be good. Because I'm telling you, and this is years ago, y'all. This episode was like 8 years ago. This is when I was doing my blog talk, maybe like five. No, 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 no. Double Blair. It was right before I transitioned. No, no, no. So it's got to be like maybe 5, 6 years ago. If anybody could contact Tony and see if he can release this episode, it's really good. So he tells Double Blair, he's like, I'm driving and I noticed something. He gets scared. His heart starts to beat. And he's looking over and he sees these huge, melanated, black, Negro heads. He's seeing it in this tunnel, but guess what? As he's looking, he's driving, he slows down. He notices that they're covering it with concrete. They're putting liquid concrete on these heads. He gets scared. He goes to a checkpoint. You know what the guy says to him at the checkpoint? He looks at the guy in the cab, which is a melanated brother. He says, how did you take this route? He said, oh, my homeboy, he was sick. He was so-and-so. He said, we don't normally see y'all down here. What do you mean? What do you think he means by y'all? He wasn't supposed to see that. The black trucker, the melanated brother trucker, wasn't supposed to take that route. And this is the sad part, because how many lunars had witnessed this and never said a word? They not like us. They not like us. They not like us. If Tony could find that episode, if anybody can get that episode, that'd be good for people to hear. Because you think a lot of times you guys think I'm exaggerating. I've been around the block. I've been spinning the block a while. I know what I heard and I saw, and I heard what he saw and what he denoted. It was on one of the last times that podcast was on with Dr. Blair. Okay. Who are those heads to, y'all? If there's no, and why is the UFO community totally blocking melanated people who have contact with melanated ETs? Why when any brown person talks, why when I came to the UFO community did they attack me so vehemently? They were hoping that I would run away with my tail between my legs and wouldn't come back to the ET community. They were hoping, but the problem is they don't realize when you're truly a contactee, there isn't any fear in you like that. All I knew though is that those communities were ran, created, and funded by dark ops and governmental CIA, FBI. That's what I think. And all of any brown person that I ever see that was invited to any of those conferences, they have zero contact with melanated ETs. They have contact with grays. They have contact with clone-looking, non-melanated, white-looking entities, but they have zero contact with melanated ETs. The way that they treated me, I understand and understood later. I didn't understand it initially. It hurt my feelings only at the beginning because I didn't have the collective consciousness. I didn't have the awareness of why. And one, I overstood and understood also what my level of contact that became more intensified with me being a little older. I overstood that they were being geoengineered, that they were the handlers of all of the information coming through the UFO and ET communities. They wouldn't ever have me come on and talk about my contact with melanated cosmonauts. The same cosmonauts that they showed the picture of the EBE on the screen, and every single person couldn't accept that that was a melanated woman. The woman looked like, she actually looked like Erica Badu. I told you that was ink, that was Marie Laveau, that was ink, Tituba. That was the melanated Andromedan that was on the ship with the other melanin. They didn't even show you the decapitated head of the sea star that was next to her that was darker skin. The being they call EBA, you can look around online. Maybe they expunged it already. I have images, so they can hide it. I got the pictures. She had coily hair, braids, melanated skin, big eyes. She looked like Erica Badu. Big nose, wide nose. She's a sister. And every single lunar that was in the group was like, oh, she looks Asian. Oh, she looks so and so. That's not really. So now you could tell a Negro different than everybody else, even if they have like a 0.0 of Negroness, but you can't tell a Negro when they're extraterrestrial. How convenient. Like how convenient that you can totally disconnect the Negro from the extraterrestrial. That's amazing to me. How your mind is so prejudiced that anything that's extraterrestrial that could perhaps have technology. You know why you don't want to know that? Because maybe you are so hateful that you don't want to know that these beings are something that look like the people you hate, and that there could be a consequence to that if they ever show up. But let's talk about the sea stars that are lunar, that were having contact with melanated people. And this could be the difference of why you are not seeing or hearing about it within the context of a lot of different communities. Because there was two sea stars, and they were very brave. I got to give these lunar women props. I think a while ago, we talked about the fact that this could be why also a factor, because there are lunars that are being trafficked. And I say trafficked because that's basically when, remember, when we talk about contactees and abductees, there's a difference in behavior patterns of the beings that are interfacing with them. Now, remember, when you're seeing movies like Fourth Kind, you see other ET movies, whenever you see lunars, a lot of times back in the days, they were having contact and it was nefarious. You'll hear them talk about anal probes, having their heads cut open, having tools being, them being awake and being aware of having full surgeries on them, being, being stimulated so they would ejaculate so they can extract their sperm. Now, this has been denoted. Now, if those of you from the ET community, there's a distinction, there's a true distinction between being a contactee and a abductee. And 99% of all of the contact is happening with brown people. I've rarely ever heard, other than a few cases where there was a form of extraction from eggs. And I've talked about my having contact where I think they abstracted my eggs. But lunars are having both contact and abductee experiences. Not all lunars are having abductee experiences, but out of all the abductee experiences, they're solely amongst lunars. Solely. Where they talk about their being abused. Now, these two sea stars, I go back to that. These two sea stars are lunar sea stars, and I think they're brave because I know it's very hard to talk about it, and especially when we're living in a realm where there's so much weird bias with complexions. That's why I think they're brave. And I think I have some videos. I don't know. You got to go back. Videos talking about these two women. I think I have their names. Okay, got to go back though. I don't know. Remember, it could be 8 years ago, what have you. But the two women were lunar, and they talked about having memories of being taken on ships, and they were Black, Negro, brothers, sisters on the ships, and that they were put in rooms and they could feel that these beings did not like them. They could feel the hatred and the disgust that in the presence of these beings, they could feel that these brown, Black, Negro extraterrestrials had a disdain for them. And all of the lunars on the ship were put in these holding centers, and they were being taken out one at a time and having experiments done them, like, probes, having their head open while they were awake, really heinous experimental things. Now, I got to tell you what this is reminiscent of, because I think sometimes, remember, I'm a clinician. I worked in clinical research, so I usually use a lot of my previous exposure or our experiences, so that I can actually understand sometimes when I'm getting presented with something that's reminiscent of what I knew before. When I'm working in a laboratory, and this is before I was younger, and in a laboratory, you know that the experiments that are done on, when we're working with rats and mice, they're done on white rats and white mice. It's relative, y'all, so just stay with me. This has nothing to do with prejudice. This is what it is. In a laboratory, we always know that in order to incept the cell, it can't have a coating of melanin. Melanin actually protects the cell and of the organism, because it disallows for inception. It will literally put a barrier around it so that you can't incept the cell. In order for us to do better clinical trials, we have to strip all mice and rats of their melanin in order to experiment on them. Are you getting where I'm going with this? Are you guys getting where I'm going with this? Oh, thank you for bringing Mutwa. Credo Mutwa was also a contactee from South Africa. He talked about these, what do you call them? He called the beings a certain kind of name. Remember, he mentioned a name? I forgot what he called them. And he was talking about these reptilian beings and how he was having contact and the reason they were here. Credo Mutwa, you could also go online. David Icke was doing interviews with him for years. Definitely, Credo Mutwa is definitely one of the contactees. And listen, even when he was being interviewed by David Icke, he wasn't being talked to by a lot of other so-called UFO people or referenced. If you notice, like in the UFO community, they won't reference too much of Krita Muchwa, the Noma. Oh, the Shatari. Thank you, Mike. Shatari. Thank you, Shatari. Okay. They don't talk about Muchwa. Credo Mutua has such wonderful. Remember, they stole some of his stuff too. It was very sad. He was an elder. It really in itself, it would behoove. It would really be helpful if you wanted to really go into a lot of the contact that was happening amongst melanated people with other melanated beings, and also with reptilians, because he talks mostly about that. It would be great if you actually go to some of the interviews with David Icke and Credo Mutua. Okay. A lot of African contactees. There were other ones who talked about the subterranean reptilians that like to have sex with the female brown women, and what they'll do is they'll kidnap the women on the surface to make babies with, hybrids with. That's a lot. There was a couple contactees from Africa, I think over by Nairobi, right over around Nairobi, and they talk about having contact with extraterrestrials, and they love brown women. So they were always, all these kidnappings were actually them taking the women on the surface, having interfacing with them and mating with them to create babies. That was the African people talking about that contact. Okay. Um, so when we talk in terms of these things that are happening with the white mice, I personally think that's why I say the sea stars who did that, big up to them for being brave enough to talk about it, because I think a lot more lunars are having negative experiences with black extraterrestrials, and it could be bleeding into collective consciousness on Earth, and that could be why there's a subliminal hatred or resentment towards melanated people. It's like a 100 monkey syndrome. It's like if you're harming a few of the monkeys and they have a memory of it, it could literally transport into the consciousness of the collective. So that could be where very fair-skinned people could feel a certain way about it. I think that could be an issue too, because when you hear about the contact these women are having, it was horrific. And a lot of the controversial concepts of them having abducting experiences. If you look a lot of these movies back in the days, there were abductions, y'all. The lunar people were having heinous interface with the extraterrestrials. Greys were usually used as a little Bioborg scientists. So a lot of times they wouldn't necessarily see the black extraterrestrials, but those who did see them and have that fired into their firewall, it literally could be transported, and that could be why lunar people feel fearful of brown people on Earth, and it could be why lunar people have an internal dislike for more melanated people. It could be. I'm not saying, I'm just saying when I hear the women's stories and I hear a lot of the different abductee stories, and I listen, I know a lot of brown people have contact. I haven't ever heard an abductee, them getting anal probes in them, getting operations while they're awake. I haven't heard it. Even when Riley Martin was getting contact, it was positive. The beings were giving him shapes and sigils to be able to be imprinted on the collective of humanity. They were having positive experiences. So you have to ask yourself, why are they treating the lunar people in that way when they're having contact? Now, mind you, lunars are also having very positive interface with the entities too. It's not always negative. I'm not going to say everyone. That's not true. I would be lying to you if I said that. So there are some positive interfaces some of the lunars are having with the ETs. But when it comes to abductions, most of the abductions that are happening to lunars. All of the melanated people, it's always positive. Even in Puerto Rico, when a guy had contact with the being that he calls black, not Negro, remember? What's his name? Oh, Amari Rivera. That's his name, y'all. Amari. Do you guys remember Amari? AMAU. I remember. I didn't remember that. Um, Amari, Amari. What do you call it? Um, what's his name? Amari. Um, yeah, Rivera. That's the guy in Puerto Rico who said he had contact with what do you call it, with the blacks but they're not Negro. That's him. You can look him up. He's still online. I just couldn't remember his name for a minute. You know what I mean? Okay. So that's another one who had contact with someone. So there's enough people who we can reference that you could go to if you say, oh well, who's having contact. You can actually reference these people to so that you could understand and understand the different types of contact that's been happening over time. So he was in Puerto Rico. Anyone in Puerto Rico, can you tell me, is anyone here from Puerto Rico? Can you tell me if you're from Puerto Rico? Because the Puerto Rican family, I want to find out if it was the Jonca where he had the because there's a place called the Jonca. Is really nice. It's like where people take the river boats and so on in Puerto Rico. I'm wondering if it was over there because they have that mountain over there. It's like a government, we call it the holographic mountain. There's a mountain over on that side, and that's where a lot of the UFOs erect in that side. So can anyone if anyone can find out where Amari had the contact, I think it was by the Junca. And in my Puerto Rican families, you probably could find the reference to where he had contact. That would be interesting if you could find out where it was. Because that in Puerto Rico, that's a hot spot for UFOs over there. And there's a mountain, and they say it's the military's over there, but everybody sees UFOs going up and down over there. Okay, so for my Puerto Rican family, if you get a chance, if you could just put it in the comments when you after the video, that'd be great. If you know, because it's Amari Rivera. I think his last name's Rivera, but it's definitely Amari. He's the one who had the contact with the melanated ET, black, not Negro. That's what he said. And it's I wanted to find the direction that he had it in. Okay. So when we talk in terms of that, I personally know now that your president, the orange one, who's over here making all these weird kind of moves and you can't understand why. Like the things that he's doing is so interesting, it doesn't make sense to us. Like the fact that he's changing all these things, and also, the fact of the matter is, your government went bankrupt. That the government was, I think, in 2022. I think again, I would love for you to reference it. In 2022 or 23, there was a new, I think UK and United States became incorporated again. I think they became incorporated again. We saw it. It was real, but I can't remember. There's all these things coming up. We saw they became incorporated again. So I don't know, because that's why it's been fenced around. The whole January 6th was a psyop so that they would have a reason to surround the White House with the fencing, and you wouldn't question why no one's going in and out of the White House anymore, because they wanted to. That's why the pooping president and the man of mass destruction, Mr. Kamala, you never saw them in the White House. You only saw them doing videos on green screens as if they were in the Oval Office, or in Tyler Perry's studio, which looks like um, a replica of the White House. That's why you only saw them in there. You did not see them in the White House. The White House has been sealed. And there's a lot of activity going on in there. I mean, we've seen, listen, we got boobs on ground over there. We've seen like fire smoke coming out. Remember when they hung the flag upside down? Remember they hung the flag upside down? Remember we saw like people's bodies coming out. We would get calls from people who said there was a whole bunch of ambulances over there. It's been buck wild over there. Okay, so any boobs on ground, if you could take your, if it behooves you, if you feel like it, it's always nice to get a little, firsthand intel, because I don't trust anybody else because they're all full of it. But if you could go over there and take images sometimes just to see what's going on, because a lot of things we get the calls after the fact when the helicopters are above, or like there's a whole bunch of gurneys coming out. We don't know what it is though. We can't say. We have speculations about what's going on in there, but it's been closed down. That whole White House is closed down. So I don't know, because according word on a curb is what do you call it? The new place where we're going to have the center of the United States is going to be in Jerusalem. Remember, it was in Morocco before, right? We talked about the Moors and the connection, and why there was the center of the United States was in Morocco. I heard it's going to be in Jerusalem. Did you guys hear that too? I heard Jerusalem is going to be where the new capital is going to be. Can anyone verify? Yafi. Yafi's over there. Yafi, can you confirm that? Did you hear any rumors that the new capital of the White House is going to be in Jerusalem? Yafi might know. She could get the intel quicker than I could. She's on site. Yafi, if you could find that out, if the capital of the White House is going to be in Jerusalem. Because remember, they even talked about the whole concept of the New Jerusalem. Remember, there's a song in Hebrew talking about the New Jerusalem. That's what all that thing is going on with Palestine, trying to take up that whole area. I think it's going to be in, yeah, you heard that too. See, Yafi heard it. I think it's going to be in Jerusalem. That's what I heard. Now, it could be a reason why it keeps shape-shifting in different areas. Are there new agreements that we don't know about? Are there agreements that, remember, before it was in Morocco? Maybe it's going to happen in Jerusalem. So that's the new center of the center of the United Fakes. Yeah, that's what I heard. So that's why I heard that. That's why you heard Trump say, we're going to make Palestine. How rude are you? Y'all don't question how he could say that to you? How could he say, well, no, I should know. It's the United States. I mean, they build monuments over dead people, slaves' bodies, and people's bodies. And I'm gonna stop saying the word slave, because there was, I think it was Rod Hayes that said, some other people said it, and I'm gonna stop saying, because there was no such thing as slaves. There was POVs though, right? Prisoners of war. So there was no such thing as slaves. And I also think that's why they didn't kill the others. Remember, I told you that the indigenous people were all melanated here. And y'all, if you don't know, there was a professor. I checked him and he verified it. And he kind of apologized. He was stunned because he was told, lunar professor, he didn't know this, but I had to check him because I know my facts and I can give you references. But the fact of the matter is, melanated people are all in the Americas. Mexican president just confirmed that, saying that there was Negro, Black people in Mexico before Columbus was even there. So stop capping and saying that they came from Africa. Africa is a beautiful continent. I don't want to take away from the beauty and the wonderful cultures that are in Africa, but all of the brown people, the majority of them were already in the Americas. I am a product of that. I'm a Carib. My ancestors were all there in the Americas, and we were always told who our cousins were, our kin was, from the Cherokee to the Blackfoot to the Chickasaw to all those in the Americas. We already knew that. It was those in America who have been socially conditioned to have a false history perpetuated to them over in the historical lies. Okay? The people there were reconfigured, the natives. Okay? So Chickasaw were moved in one area. You had the Carib moved all over there, but they were all perceived to be Israelites. The original Israelites. Why I think it is true? Because even in the concept of Jewish law, this is why I think y'all. I don't. You can guys can confirm this. All Hebrew Israelites don't come over here hostile because y'all be out of control. But the Hebrew Israelites, you know, some of this true too. The true Israelites, especially when I studied, like the Rastafaris talk about being the children of Sheba, the 13 tribes of Israel, of the Israelites, the Hebrewites. They were all in the Americas. They were all relocated all over in different parts of the Americas. So the bloodline of the Israelites, of the true bloodline of the Israelites, the children of Sheba, the 13 tribes are all in the Americas. And I've seen remnants of that from some of the historical references from the ancient books that I see with the Jamaican, because a lot of the Jamaican Rastafari and Trinidadian, they actually have the book. It's like the Torah, but it's the Torah like a hybrid version of the Torah, or maybe the original. Who's to say? But it talks about the tribe being forgotten, like they're forgetting who they are purposefully, and then being exodus all over, lost, and that they were lost tribes replaced and reconfigured all in the Americas. Now, why I think the Ashkenazi know this, because they have a concept that they're not supposed to hurt the Jews. They're not supposed to hurt anyone who's not a golem. They aren't supposed to take unfair practices. They aren't supposed to hurt them. They're not supposed to kill them. They're told this. Now, if you listen to this without the knowledge of all these other things, you would say, well, they're hurting people, they're doing unfair practices. What if I told you that they aren't? That they will create an environment to make others do it to you, or your own, but they won't do it to you because they know it's a crime in Jewish law to hurt another Jew. What if I told you that they created a whole system that they didn't have to touch anyone? They just had to personally, socially engineer others to hurt you. So they aren't hurting the Jews. That's why they weren't allowed to kill them. That's why they could have just killed them all off, right? You say, oh well, why would if they hated the Jews and they want to replace them, then why wouldn't they kill the original Israelites? They weren't allowed to. They aren't golem. What if I told you that the golem are really the ones who are saying they can't kill the real Jews, and they are aware of who the Jews are, the Israelites? Okay? Because when we talk about the Israelites, we're talking about specific Israelites. They're all over there, and they're in. You'll see them in Turkey. You'll see them in Morocco. You'll see them in Eritrea, Sudan, Somalia, Ethiopia. You'll see them in the Caribbean. You'll see them in the Americas. You see them in Spain. A lot of that is the original Israelites, the tribes, the original 13 tribes, like speckles of the original tribes of Sheba, of the 13 lost tribes. And they were told that they would forget themselves and they would have to wander. And then one day they would wake up, and it's kind of like the whole concept of them waking up to who they are. And when they do, there's this mass exodus. I don't think it's an exodus off of the landmass. I actually think they get extracted when they become aware of themselves. If I had to like it, it's just a concept, y'all. It's like me surmising things, right? What if I told you that that movie with Sanaya Lathan, with Alien versus Predator, was about that very thing? I don't know. Did you ever see that movie, Aliens versus Predators? What if I told you in the movie Aliens versus Predator, um, Aliens, Alien versus Predator, that the concept of them, because the Andromedans are the ones with the dreadlocks. I talked about that for years. That's the psyop they put in your head. Those are the Andromedans. They basically created a world of enemies, really powerful enemies. That's what the aliens were. Remember, they came into the pyramid. They bred them and they put them in the pyramid for them to fight, to show and prove themselves, right? So basically, they created a terrain with hostiles to really make them maybe reevaluate themselves and battle, to see if they could they could have a resurgence of their consciousness, of their awareness, almost like a battle, like a gladiator kind of battle, right? What if the true Israelites were meant to wander the earth? They were kind of scattered, to purposefully do that, so that they can actually go through this process of awakening and becoming conscious of who and what they are. And that when the very point when they do, when they become self-aware, when they start to regain their conscious awareness, that they begin their exodus. And when you talk about Moses parting the Red Sea, maybe the Red Sea, because remember, I don't believe that the extraterrestrials come from space out there up above. Space is below. That's even when you talk about the concept of when they say Jesus, when he came out and he was resurrected and he went away, they say he spiraled downward. They never say he went up. You Christians should know this statement. They actually say that Jesus went down into the earth to help the others. Why would he go down and not up if heaven's above? I also think that the concept of heaven is a psyop. They tell you that it's above, but really where you want to go is below. That's why those orbs came from underneath. That's why space is underneath. All the underneath they say is unsolved, so much things we don't know. 80% of the what is it, 70 or 80%? No, 70% of the surface of the earth is water. I actually think when they say that Moses parted the Red Sea, I think we go into the water. Oh, thank you, my lovey. Thank you. Answering and confirming many questions and things. Gratitude to you. Oh, thank you, my love. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, I actually think the whole concept of Moses. Remember, I told you like I felt like that they call me that. They kind of refer to me that the others that I'm a Moses, and I think there's others, and we part that. I think what it is that when I talk about waking up out of the firmament, there's a parting of the Red Sea. I think we part it. When we become conscious and it's time for extraction, the Exodus is us leaving Babylon. It's this whole firmament. Watch Aliens versus Predators, y'all. Please watch that. If anything, just tell me how you like it. I actually think that that's what happens to us. I think that's why there's nobody left in ancient Egypt in Kemet. That's why everybody was out of the Mayans or disappeared. That's why all of the places in the Americas in parts of the where the Grand Canyon was, when you see the mummies and the inside of the Grand Canyon, there's no remnants of the people that were there. That's why when even the Hopi talk about the space, the beings coming down, they talk about the ant beings taking them inside the earth to protect them. We go in, we don't go out. That's the psyop. And since we're there, you got me today, y'all. Should I take a break? Am I overwhelming you a little bit? Let me know if I'm going too far, y'all. Am I going too far? Let me stop looking over here because I'm looking at the phone. Let me know if I'm going too far because I have another thing too. I know that's right. Wait, I had a dream you were saving me out of the war zone. Yafi, you already know I got you. You already know. That's why I think they didn't want me to go over there too. I think they thought I might extract you. Yeah, I have a concept too. And I know it's true. I know this part is true. I don't know everything. Some things I just theorize. So just take that with me. Oh, thank you, my lovey. Correct. Oh, wait, correct. Correct, Drake. Golem, fake Jew, or versus Kendrick Lamar. The Jew listened to his song, Yah and DNA. It's been stated this fact. We are the Israelites, the real sons, people of the Most High, and the false Gene Zeus, sun god, psyop. Thank you for that share. That was really no. Thank you for the share. That's what I think they were talking about. Like we talk about that all the time because the concept, and I'm going to go into, I didn't forget what I was going to, thank you for the donation, my love. Thank you. You're absolutely correct. I think what's interesting is because why did they go so hard? What is that book, y'all? Oh, we're gonna go in today, y'all. I hope you're in for it. I'm not gonna stay online because y'all are getting me all hyped up. What is that book that Kylie was reading? Remember the book? It was from something to, oh shoot, Israelites. For something to the what's that book, y'all? Kylie. Remember they came after Kylie made him apologize from Hebrews to Negroes, from Negroes to Hebrews, or Hebrews to Negroes. Remember? It's from Hebrews to Negroes, right? Can someone tell me, confirm that's the book? From Hebrews to Negroes. I think that's it. And remember they came after him? Oh my God, they made him have to apologize. He had to go to the Jewish museum. They vilified. Why did it bother them so much that he was reading a book and that he just posted it? Oh, from Negroes to Hebrews. Thank you, my love. Thank you, Delmache. Thank you. From Negroes to Hebrews. Remember how bad they came for him? He didn't even do anything. He just posted. That's why I say, y'all. That's crazy. Kylie. Thank you, Kylie. Yo, I remember I saw the document. It was really good. It was factual. I First of all, we watched it. It wasn't even a big deal. Why would they be upset about that? Because they don't want to know. They don't want you knowing who you are. Why don't they want you knowing you the original Israelites? Because it's the golem. They are projecting themselves on you. They're projecting them. They are not allowed to hurt the Israelites. They can allow Israelites to hurt other Israelites. They can psyop you and make you hurt your own. They can progenerate things and make others. They may have created these other beings to try to attack you, but they can't hurt you. And they get the laws of the Jewish laws that they aren't allowed to hurt you, but they've mitigated the laws to make sure that the others can. They keep themselves out of it because they're the golem. They're the golem. They know what they are. So they're projecting that on society. They're projecting that on you. And for every time you have a memory, collective memory, they want to shoot it down. Why would you mess with Kylie? All he did was post up from Negroes to Hebrews. Why would that bother anyone? Why would they have to go to the Holocaust Museum? Why would he have to donate $50,000 or whatever he had to their organization? Because they don't want you to know who you are. It's a really good if anybody want to watch it, y'all, we should probably watch it together on Zoom. Delmache, you know what? We'll watch that together on Zoom the next time. Because I watched it a couple of years ago. It was really good. Okay, the true Israelites. That's why they say that the Israelites. They say the synagogue of Satan is the false one, but really the Israelites forget who they are. They're lost. They're roaming. Remember, they talk about the rabbis in Brooklyn. Talk about big up to Rabbi what's his name? Rabbi Sheve. I think it's Rabbi Sheve. He actually is a really good rabbi. He teaches at the yeshiva in Brooklyn, one of the yeshivas in Brooklyn, and he was talking about the fact that he won't be involved with anything that's going on with the government in Israel because he knows as a Jew, he said, we're supposed to roam until we're picked up. He didn't say picked up, but he said we're supposed to roam. We don't have a homeland. That's what I think it's about, y'all. I think that's because we get extracted. This is aliens versus predator. We created enemies here. This might very well be like a jostling arena, like a gladiator Rome, where you're just tested with all your enemies consciously. That's why I say they try to dirty you up. They want you to dirty yourself up. They want you to do dark things. They keep perpetuating disgusting things, like for you to do sexual deviancy, for you to do drugs. They want you to dirty everyone up because that's going to disallow for you to be extracted. There's extraction points. The reset. When you talk about Moses parting the Red Sea, we thought about him parting the Red Sea. It's literal. He's parting the sea because perhaps the spaceships come out. When you hear the last scene of the movie I talked about, with the last scene where they're taking all the Negroes off the planet, that why would they take the last scene and do a countdown? Because they probably know, these golem know that their only time here is because we're present. As soon as we're extracted, their whole world's concaves in because they're not real. It's like AI becoming sentient, or bioborgs or mechanics or cyborgs becoming sentient and being aware of the delicacy of their survival. What if the machines become sentient and they're aware that you're responsible for perhaps them not having a life? You have control of that. They would want to get rid of you or control you if they had needed you still. All of these things to make you watch pornography, Why would a Jewish community ever have it? Because I've met plenty of the rabbis and so on, rabbinical teachers, like when I learned Hebrew, like why would they ever want you, why would they promote pornography? Why would the Khazars have be rubbing Pornhub and all that if they're very holy? And they knew that if they dirtied themselves, they wouldn't be able to be extracted unless they knew they aren't ever going to be extracted. But they knew that you could, the ones that they're placating, so they dirty you up. That pornography stuff is for you, making you watch it, making you uniformly dirty yourselves, make yourself more dense. So it's very difficult for you to leave. Watch the movie Noah. Noah's what is it? Noah. It's really good too. There's a movie called Noah. And why I like this movie, I kind of fell upon it. Did you guys see it? There's a movie, Kyrie, thank you. There's a movie called Noah. I think we fell upon it. If you've not watched it, it's so good. I kind of fell upon it. It's like it's talking about Noah's Ark, you know, when he builds the ark. Why do they always bring up the Noah's Ark? You know why, y'all? Why's my lips like that? You know why he brings up Noah's Ark? Because we go into the water. Why was there a concept of water coming down? Why in the age of Aquarius is she pouring the ladle of water down? We go through the waters, y'all. In the movie Noah, I don't want to tell you too much, but it's really good. They have these beings that fall down to earth, and the more time they spend here, they get petrified. I think it's a concept of us. I'm not going to tell you the rest of it because it's really good. You got to watch that. They're really good. And even when where's M? M's at work right now. M usually talks about, we talk about, she always sings a song. We all live in a yellow submarine, a yellow submarine, a yellow submarine. We're in the water, y'all. They're vilifying the fish. They're vilifying the mermaids. Everything that's connected to water, they're trying to destroy. They're making us afraid to live near the waterways. Why? Why in Africa do they have the Christian base vilifying marine spirits, telling you not to go back to your marine families, go back to the marine spirits? Why would they say that? Why in the movie Black Panther did they vilify the mer people that were under the water and made them seem like they were the attackers? Why? They want you to dirty yourself up, y'all. We're going back to the waters. And Moses, which I think I'm one of them, we part the Red Sea. Do you remember that last scene is so powerful? So powerful. If you ever watch, because you know they force us to watch all those biblical movies, right? Especially around Palm Sunday and Easter time, right? They always make us watch all these Moses shows, right? I didn't hate it though. Did you guys like it? I actually, you know what, when I was younger, I felt connected to that scene. And that's why I always talk about it. Like when Moses, um, remember the burning bush? Could we be reenacting all these scenes? Like everything's burning right now. Could that be a reenactment of what's going on right now? The burning bushes? And that's where he got the information, came from the burning bush. But then he gave a way for his people to exodus. Remember before the exodus, there was locusts, all the food disappeared. You had all the diseases, the plagues, right? Right? The plagues before he left. He led his people out of Babylon, right? And those who turned, is it the same story? When those turned around, they turned to salt and they were petrified. You weren't supposed to turn around. And then Moses led these people out of the land of sin, out of the land of Babylon, and they were chasing them. Remember, they were chasing them. Yeah, every Passover, you're right, Yafi. Every Passover they were chasing them, right? And then he got to the waterway and he took his staff and he opened up and he commanded and the skies open. It's a beautiful scene, y'all. That's probably the most biblical thing I really like. I love that scene. It's so magical. He stamps it down, he puts it up to the sky, and all the clouds open up. The sky opens up and then the water parts, and I get so much anxiety. Do you get anxiety too? I get anxiety when he's about to go through because I'm hoping all the children and the horse, because I love animals. I always feel bad for the horses, right? He opens up the Red Sea and they're going through, and I'm like, I'm getting anxiety because he's going through, and then the horses are following them. They're chasing. They're trying to get at them, and he goes through, and then it closes behind them. I actually think that's how we get extracted. I think it's a lot more literal than we know. The seas part. All those orbs coming out the water that Coach Carlson doesn't have the balls to talk about. Yes, honey. Yes. They part. And maybe the Red Sea is more literal. And maybe, Yafi, the Red Sea is over in Israel, right? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe the war is happening over in Israel and over in the Middle East because there's a Red Sea over there, right? Because the Red Sea is over there. But I don't think it's just there. I think it's in a lot of different places. I think the Red Sea is kind of like could be a concept, like it could be there's seas that open. I don't think it's just one, because remember the orbs came through all the waterways. So I don't think it's one arena. I think just like the orbs were able to come out and be erected out of all these different water masses, it's probably the same. They want you to stay away from water. They're demonizing, saying that the mermaid. You know why I think also they wanted you to think that the mermaids are being eaten? This is what I think, because they're psychological devils. Willy Wonka and his League of Doom are devils. They want to imprint in your head to be afraid, of things. And if you hear that these celestial aquatic beings that you've always admired are being hurt and eaten, it subconsciously puts fear in you, and it also makes you want to separate from that, thinking that that's something that's going to affect you. It's like psychological warfare. It's psychological. That's what it is. Yeah, the Red Sea is in Israel, Egypt, and Jordan. That could be why the war, listen, that could be why the war began over there. That whole October 7th, because they wanted to take over those areas so that they can mitigate who gets access to those. Now that makes more sense, Yafi. That's probably why all that happened over there. The governments know what's going down, so they're making sure they have control of the Red Sea. They don't want y'all getting out of there. I'm just saying, for people, like they'll say, oh, the holy people, we're just and so on. But why would any Khazar? How are you gonna be a Khazar and have and Rabbi Smuley is making butt plugs and said he's gonna make your marriage better? If you're living a very healthy life, why would anything be wrong with your marriage? Why would he create butt plugs and sell it with his daughter? Does that sound very holy to you? Rabbi Smuley, how could you be a rabbinical spiritual man and even think to create something like that? Why would the Khazars have all of the control of pornography that's being generated, that's destroying marriage? Actually, it's destroying men. It's destroying young men's minds and their bodies. Why would that be holy for you to create something like that that destroys families? Ask yourself that question. Butt plugs? What butt plugs? Who's putting an anal plug in them? Are you having flashbacks of your time being confiscated and abducted on the ships, and you want to reenact that perversion? Really? It doesn't make sense, because now it does, because they are the golem. They're the golem. And they're projecting that on all the true Israelites. So they want you to think that you're lower. They've got all their soldiers out here trying to tear down the fabric and the peace of mind. Why are you at the top of why do we have Khazars at the top of all hip hop music that really came in positive? Remember, hip hop music was hip hop, hibbity hibbity hip hop. Don't stop getting the bang bang thing. I can't say it right because I'm a little younger than that time, but my big brother, you know what I mean? But I'm just saying, hip hop was beautiful. Remember how amazing it was? We had good songs too. I know that you don't like Will Smith, but remember he had summer, summer, summertime, summertime. We had such positive songs. We had all the revolutionary kind of things with Chuck D and Flavor Flav, stop, fight the powers that be. You know what I mean? Oh, it was so amazing. It was so beautiful. But then these motherfuckers took control of it, and now everyone's trying to kill their girlfriend, choke her out, have hoes and bitches. Excuse my language. There's no children in here, right? Hoes and sluts. You're a pimp. Like kill who? Ever since they took over, you don't think it's changed? Hello? Hip hop was beautiful. Like it wasn't rap music. You notice they changed the name. It's just like Kanye West used to be a real person and now he's Ye. You notice when they change the energy and the frequency, they got to change the name because it was hip hop. Then it changed to rap. When it turned to rap, now it's dark. It used to be positive, fun, revolutionary. I remember listening to Super Soldier every Friday in New York, driving on the hutch. Big up to all my New York brethren. Driving on the hutch, listening to Super Soldier, making me feel empowered as a Negro woman and making me want to take care of my community, making me feel connected to powerfulness and wanting to raise my children to have an awareness and love for themselves. You know how beautiful that was? When all these people talk about how dirty we are, we're low vibrational, they have no clue. All the beautiful R&B music of like you used to hear beautiful music with Marvin Gaye and all the beautiful the three guy bands and so on. That was beautiful until these devils took over. Now the music is like stick a butt plug in your butt, drink lean, get so Ozempic, have 50 hoes, kick out your baby's mama, kick her head in if she don't listen. What kind of music is that? KRS-One was very informative. Remember we had Fight the Power? No, not that Fight the Power. Remember we had Self Destruction. Yeah, remember Miss Melody? Self Destruction. You had it for self destruction. Remember that? Remember Queen Latifah was like, "Who you calling up? UNITY? That's a unity. UNITY. Way back, man. Remember all those beautiful songs? What happened? But you know what happened? You let them buy your companies out, and once they headed it, they changed the vibratory frequency. So now it's emitting the lowest vibration, and it's hurting your Israelites' babies. Thank you. Sending love from Brooklyn. Brooklyn's in the house. Big up to you in Brooklyn. Thank you, my love. Brooklyn's in the house. Thank you for the donation. Thank you. That's so sweet. Brooklyn's in the house. I love Brooklyn. I wasn't born in Brooklyn. My big brother was born in Brooklyn, but we had our house. My parents had their house in Brooklyn, so I kind of lived in Brooklyn for a little bit. But I was very little. I love Brooklyn though. I was always my part of my stomping grounds when I was younger. Okay. Remember all the beautiful music, and you let these devils take a control. So everything that was positive that headed the Israelites communities, they took over. Even now, the Golem and mass droves are taking your baby's organs. All those organs that are being trafficked, that are from melanated Israelites. Now I think now I know why they probably want the Israelites. They're putting their organs in their bodies so that they can try to leave. Is that too much of me thinking, y'all? Am I overthinking? Maybe that's why they're trafficking organs. We couldn't figure out. Maybe they're trying to put the Israelites' organs in them because it's only melanated organs. And they're definitely getting a certain type of melanated person. They're getting all the Israelites, the original Israelites. They're taking their organs. Maybe they're putting in their bodies hoping that they can leave. They're like, they can't leave because they're not real. Oh, they're filling their bodies full of the organs, y'all. You shouldn't be giving your children. Listen, they come they come in the droves in the hospitals and they get melanated organs, y'all. You sit over there, they targeting, they got cops saying you're gonna get 50,000 for a spleen, you get 100,000 for the heart. Listen, women, you leave the hospital, they're taking all your stem cells from your afterbirth, from your placenta. You're not supposed to give them your placenta. They're putting that in their bodies. Remember when they were eating the mummies over in Egypt? This woman was going to argue with me. I said, if you are an original person from any community, it doesn't even have to be Egypt, from any native group, would you ever let people dig up your dead, extract them from their tombs, and then consume them and sell it? If you're the original people, would you ever do it? That would be blasphemous. That's how you know who's in Egypt now wasn't in Egypt. Those are the mud flood children that were brought into Egypt after the last cataclysm. These are the incubator babies. Who would dig up their dead and sell the skin of the mummies all over the world for them to consume? And then they're calling Africans booga booga boogas. Thank you, my love. Oh, thank you, Francine. Oh, Francine, we went to school together. Oh, shoot. Originally from Mount Money Earning Mount Vernon. Francine, we used to have parties together. Big up to Francine in the house. That's a Mount Vernonite right there. You know what I'm saying? We had such a good time. I remember, Francine, we used to make poster boards for our parties. Remember that? And then we had remember that's when Janet Jackson was uh remember she was like nasty, nasty girl, don't mean a thing. Oh, you nasty boy. I love that. Remember Janet Jackson was a bomb, y'all. Let's wait a while before. We had a party and we had Janet Jackson. It was so much fun. Thank you. Thank you, Francine. Say hi to your family for me. Yeah, so we when we're talking about they were consuming the organs, y'all. They were consuming the organs. You're telling me you're from there and you're eating the mummy's organs? The mud flood children are no joke, y'all. You the incubate the world fairs, y'all. You remember the world fairs and they had children, incubated children. Remember they had these cards, these postcards, and they were going to pick out babies. Remember the concept of the storks bringing. Why did they talk about storks bringing babies? Because they were homogenized. They weren't real people. Remember they had a concept of the storks dropping off the babies? The Cabbage Patch children being grown. They had advertisements of different babies that you could pick out of a patch. You remember the World Fairs and they have incubators with all these babies in it? Those are the beings we dealing with now, y'all. Those are the what do you call the golem. Those are the golem. How you gonna call me a golem and you the golem? Why are you trying to project on me what you are? Oh. UNITY, that's a unity. I like that song. Yo, it's a whole psyop, y'all. It's a whole psyop. We had the world fairs advertising new worlds. How come you had better technology back in the days than you have right now? You don't ask yourself the question. Remember they had people movers, like when you go to Disney and you had the movers, they had that in Europe. They had like elevated cars. Like where'd they go? Welcome to the finale, y'all, of the video game. You better keep as clean as possible, though. Don't listen to them golem. Don't listen to those Zionist golems telling you to watch porn all day, masturbate to devils so they can feed off of your energy. Okay? Oh, someone said there's going to be a pole shift in 2040. No, my love. The pole shift is sooner. I actually think listening to one of the guys, I think the pole shift is happening this year. According to this guy, he actually got killed, I think he got killed. He was the one, and remember, I know many people listen to Jason. I know they're getting the concept of the pole shift from Jason Bashir's. I think he's the one per generating that the pole shift is going to happen in 2040. I disagree because if you look at all the phenomenon right now, it's a quickening happening. And even with the magnetosphere, is anybody here feeling pressure? Like are you feeling the barometric pressure? Like your ears, your eyes are feeling crazy, sinuses? Please put a 1 if you're feeling that right now. That's a byproduct of the sky getting heavier, going downward. I told you there's a mothership too. That's that pressure pushing. Alex just showed us Sunstar. Alex just showed us from our Zoom group. He just showed us the clouds going, but because in Vancouver the clouds are usually high above. All the clouds are going down over the buildings, pushing down. All of these things happening are byproducts of the barometric pressure. Everybody know. Look, ones. All these people I know are having all these eye issues, sinus issues. Oh, look at this, y'all. Look at the ones. Oh my God. That's the barometric pressure. That's what it is. So when you say, Lovey, I know that you probably believe Jason Bashir's, but I'm telling you to prepare earlier. If it's 2040, that's great. But if it's earlier, I would prefer you be safe than sorry. Look at this. Everyone's experienced eye issues. Look, eye issues, sinus issues. That's from the barometric. Before we had a storm in Florida, when I used to live in Florida, before the storm, we would always get this sinus pressure, right? like in the eyes, like the head, just sinus pressure. And you would get a headache for days. Like your eyes would feel like they're popping out of your head, your sinus, like headaches on one side. That's all from the barometric pressure. There's something pressing down that's causing look at this, y'all. You think I make it up. Look at the chat. Listen, sometimes you don't believe me. You think, oh, FleurBrun, you're exaggerating. Look, everybody's telling you what's going on with them. You think that's by chance all these people are lying? No, it's because everybody's feeling it. I'm sorry, y'all. Everyone in here, you got to start. I will say this. With the pressure, you got to do the neti pots. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I am a trans frog, even though Trump is orange and he won't let me be who I want to be. I'm just putting that out there. But I do the neti pot. You got to do the neti pot, and you definitely have to keep all of this clear. You got to do like the pushing down your sinuses, opening this up. One thing I use, this is what I use. I use the cayenne pepper, and thank you to On, because I usually use the powder because I carry it everywhere with me because I travel so much. I use the cayenne oil and I put it where the sinuses are because it allows for a more oxygen, a flood of oxygen to go through. I use the cayenne because I don't want to take the medicine because I don't believe in medicine like that. Everyone's feeling tired. So I use the cayenne to get rid of the headaches and open up, allow more oxygen. And I just thin out my blood a little bit just to make sure, because all that pressure is in the head, in the eyes. You got to clean out the eyes. And don't forget, I'm big in mitigating with some of that, with, what do you call it? Iodine. Remember the whole thing with water, right? A lot of us are water beings. A lot of us are connected to the waterways. This is my opinion. I'm not a doctor. I am a crazy person. Okay. Just say this, but iodine helps. I put it on my thyroid and I put it on because and also on my eyes sometimes, because the iodine is what we need, especially if there's heightened amount of radiation. I don't know this. I'm crazy. Don't listen to me. I'm a wackadoodles. I put that iodine on and I feel better. And I forget sometimes. And remember, with the fake eclipse, the fake sun they put up in the sky, that's not giving anyone vitamin D. And I have to remind everyone, can someone paste in the chat, what are the side effects of low vitamin D? And you're going to be shocked that some of the symptoms that everyone's experiencing is low vitamin D. And you would say, why would I experience low vitamin D if I'm living in a sunny area? What if I told you the sun is not real and that the last fake eclipse in 2024 was an eclipse that was man-made? It was wrong. The fixtures in the sky, they're making eclipses that are fake, was to hide something they put in the sky to cover up the other, whatever the sun simulator was before. And that's why I told you before, the sunflowers are not facing the sun anymore. They're facing away. If that was a solar fixture, if that was the sun, how come the sunflowers are not facing it? And how come our sea star Delmarche, it was her brother and it was somebody else from our group, said they have solar panels and they have full on sun on their solar panels, no trees covering it. And they used to get lots of sun in the sky. And then all of a sudden, their solar panel energy is really low, almost like they're getting no sun. Oh, look, depression, weakness. Oh, snap. Look at it, y'all. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you what I do. So they can't say I'm giving you medical misinformation because it's a lie. I'm just talking about what I do. I make sure that I supplement for the vitamin D that's lacking. It doesn't matter where you are, what tropical place you are. The symptoms that a lot of people, including myself, were getting are low vitamin D symptoms, even if you're straight in the sun. I knew people who were going out in the sun and their skin was staying pale. How is that happening? Radiation exposure. And again, what if they put a fake sun in the sky because there's a ship ahead and they needed to make sure you wouldn't notice there's a blackout? Why did we have one of the sea stars put a whole potato on a counter and the potato started to sprout? Now, why would that matter? Is because potatoes usually need dark spaces to grow and root, right? Usually you put it in like a hay thing. It depends. If you have like a root cellar, you put in you put in hay and it gets rooted, or you put in dirt. How come her potato sprouted on her table? You know why? Because there's no sun. The sun is not real. So everyone's getting exposed. So why would a government do that? Why would the government do that? And let me say this, y'all. I want to give a shout out to someone I really respect, I love, I adore. I think she's so awesome. Um, she's a wonderful leader. She's such a wonderful role model. and they tried to take her out. And I really want to send a lot of love and respect to her. That's Dr. Saraki Mumbi, Dr. Mumbi. Um, she is such a wonderful person. I don't know if many of you know that she had an attempt in her life and worried a lot of people. Um, and she's in Kenya. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful sea star. Please support her channel, support her. She's not only a whistleblower, she's very spiritual. She's connected to the galactic family. She's such a wonderful pillar in her community and in the world. And they try to hurt her and take her out. Be careful who you allow around you, y'all. Saraki Mubi, she is so wonderful. Please support her. Please send her love. She is so awesome. I'm so grateful. I know the Galactics protected her. I know she's protected. They wouldn't have ever let anyone take her out. They tried. They did. They hurt her a little bit, but she is absolutely beautiful. I want to send all the love, protection, and support to Dr. Mubi. If you see her, if you want to join her channel, please. She's such a wonderful pillar. And, I think in itself, I got to remind everyone, they will send people to you, y'all. And do not trust people that are your friends. You don't know people. It's they listen right now with the economy, you don't know who's friend and foe. Trust your what's in your gut. They are sending people and they have plants all in every community. Do not go away with anyone. Don't go. Look at all these stories of these girls going away. The beautiful young Indian young lady who was at the University of Pittsburgh, no, University of Pennsylvania. Was it Pennsylvania? She just got killed in Dominican Republic because her friends left her with a stranger. Look at the young lady that went to Mexico with her friends and they beat her up and killed her and then lied to her family and then are living their best lives and she's dead. Look at all of these, and we watched a video the other day. I think this was a young lady who's online. Her name is Sun Ra. Wonderful sea star. She's very fire. She's got that chaotic, fiery energy. Just she's a revolutionary. And she talked about a story which I think everybody should remind themselves. Oh, the University of Pittsburgh. I want to send a lot of love and support to the families of the young people who lost their daughters and their children. So I'm very sorry to hear that. She actually shared a video the other day, and we watched it on Zoom. I think they watched it on Zoom. I saw it, and it was about hold on. Fine, fine, fine. It was about trusting in people that really are plotting on you from the very get up. She just mentioned she just mentioned how remember Dr. Dre and Easy and Suge Knight, they all knew each other, and Easy really trusted in Dr. Dre. And Dr. Dre, you know, Suge Knight said to Eazy, he said to Eazy that you trust in Dr. Dre, but Dr. Dre hates you. He does not like you. He talks bitter about you all the time. And I don't know if Eazy didn't believe it because he really liked, and Eazy actually, I heard he came from a really good family. So he was very trusting. He really trusted in, Dr. Dre. And I guess from what I understood is that Suge had a phone call with Dr. Dre, and he unbeknownst to Dr. Dre, Eazy listened in. He had Eazy listen in on a phone call. I'm sharing this story because it's important for you all to realize. And when he was on a phone call, Suge Knight is talking to Dr. Dre, and this is someone that Eazy trusted, thought was his friend, really loved him and supported him. And all he did was talk dastardly about Eazy, and he said he didn't care if he wanted him to get shot in his face, like he thought he deserved it. And he said, no, you wouldn't want that to happen because they could hurt his mother. He's like, yeah, let them shoot her, that be in her face too. His own mother. He wanted that man's mother to be hurt. That was his friend. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for the donation, my love. Love you much. Dr. Moonby too. I have ear ringing, but the pitch seems higher, not continual. Any insight and share would be thankful. Thank you, my love. Thank you for the donation. The ring in the ears also, there's rogue frequencies. It could be right now. Normally, when you had ring in the ears, we used to think it could be frequency differential, like communication that's coming from outside your frequency that we're normally accustomed to. Like we live in an interdimensional multiverse. But sometimes if we hear ringing, it could be a communication that's coming outside of your spectrum of consciousness. But nowadays, because of all the technology and a lot of the lower frequencies, the low elf waves that are being perpetuated, along with the microwave energies, along with radio frequencies, rogue radio frequencies, and also with the what do you call it? It's like what the things they put underneath the ground during 2020. So what's happening now is you're hearing the sounds of them turning on technology, or starting to turn on elf waves, lowering it, and it may cause a high pitched sound. So it could be fiber optics close by. So whenever you hear the ringing, just kind of, in order for you to decipher, now, if you're on a beach and you hear it, that's more of a communication, because the beach has clears. The ionosphere is really clear. But if you're hearing the high pitched sound and you're somewhere by buildings, or I would liken the frequency that there's some sort of low frequency, low elf wave, and they're shifting it or lowering, or they could be recalibrating it, you're hearing it. But if it's not around any technology and you're more in a forest or by the water, that's interface. That's organically most likely coming from some sort of telecommunication that you can't decipher. That's my opinion. So I hope that was helpful. So no, what I want to go back to saying is, like, the friendship thing is, like, look at this man who was friends. He was smiling in Easy A's face. I tell you all the time, I've had several people that have been part of my so-called groups. They're so nice to you, but those are the ones they set you up with. They will set you up with the people that you think, the people who rah-rah in your face and smile in your face, and meanwhile they're plotting against you. You have to be mindful to be good with yourself and your family, your closest family. I wouldn't trust, like, what they did to Dr. Mumi. I'm so grateful. She had great girlfriends who loved her, who checked on her, made sure she was okay, but she had powerful ancestors who watched over her, made sure they couldn't get to her. Be careful. We're too close to the fourth and goal. And I know the C-Star said, oh, pole shift is 2040. Even with that being said, the reset is coming before that. And the exodus comes before that. Those of us who exodus, it happens before the pole shift. So the exodus happens prior to that. Oh, thank you, my love. Thank you, Denise. You can ask ancestors to cut down the energy to help the ringing. Thanks, FleurBrun. I love you. Oh, thank you, Mama. That's a great suggestion. You can ask your ancestors to cut down the energy to help the ear ringing. Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great suggestion. Thank you. But it's very important for us to understand that you have to use your proper discernment. And I don't want to tell you not to trust people online. It's kind of like, it's a little bit of like hater energy too. I don't want to do that because it's not fair. It's like, there's people online, they want to come on and share whatever they know. But right now at this time, especially when I watched that interview with Coach Carlson, and he basically omitted any sort of topic about the orbs and all the multiple places the orbs were being seen, and only talked about the drones. I knew then it's a total, he's totally in a psyop. That's my opinion. I felt that way. And I'm like, I'm watching this man who everyone thinks is a contactee who knows everything about UFOs and ETs talk about and totally omit things that were obviously talked about all over the place. And this is someone who everyone's looking for that information. So if someone is following him, he has a big following, people follow him and listen and respect his information, they would totally be caught off in knowing all the other events that were happening around that event. The orbs were there, not the drones. The drones showed up after the orbs. It wasn't just in New Jersey. It was in Pennsylvania. It was in New York. It was in Atlanta. It was over in parts outside of Georgia. It was over in Tennessee. It was over in UK. It was over in Ireland. It was over in Australia. It was over in Europe. It was over in France. It was over in South America. It was all over the place. The orbs were, and then not even like we can make it up, y'all. People were taking images of them. So it isn't that I'm hating on anyone, but I'm seeing the entire UFO community be flooded with people that are non-legitimate. They may have gone to a seminar to do light language or study from a diabolical one who talks to Orishas on freaking walkie-talkies, and then all of a sudden they come out and progenerate themselves like they are the master of light language, that they're talking to all these beings. I would be very careful. If you about that life, you're not going to show up on the block just now. You would have shown up a long time ago, and there would be receipts for that. A lot of these people that are being flooding these areas, it's to distract you so that you get forms of misinformation because it's too saturated. How could you verify? You can't. All of the UFO, all the UFO community is already psyop from CIA, so the contactees are also being suppressed. So now you got these people coming in here flooding the information. So don't even bother. Follow your gut. Go within. Be careful putting too much, and don't put validation in anything I say. I always tell you, you could easily vet out anything I say if you're not lazy. There's nothing you should believe that I share with you. You should do your due diligence and go and research yourself and validate it for yourself. I could be all kinds of crazy and quackadoodles. You never, even with me, go and look at everything I share with you and see if it has value and credence and if it's credible. You have to do that. Look at people's past behavior and bring it to full date. Past behavior is a good indication of future behavior. There's no one coming on post 2020 on UFOs that's talking about UFOs or ET that wouldn't have shown up before then. Contact people who are into that or into that from youth. They're watching all these shows. They're part of that community. They're into that stuff. It isn't going to just show up overnight somehow unless they're doing drugs, and that's non-legitimate. If they're doing drugs and that's how they get contact, then that's coming from a dark source, and that's not somebody you should ever validate, because they're the ETs and the extraterrestrials and beings like that, interdimensionals. They're not messing with people that have dirty auric fields. It just that's not their thing. You can have layers of interface with things, but the things that would have some validity and higher frequency aren't going to interface with people that are on heavy narcotics and heavy drugs. It would dirty your field. Be careful. Just, I could be crazy. Anybody could be crazy, but validate. You could easily go back to the archives, go back to people's past. In 2020, I tell everybody this. This lady asked me again. Somebody else asked me another question. If they want to validate someone, I said, go to 2020. You know, the biggest validation, I can tell you this right now. If they weren't telling you not to take the Kukarachi kill shot, or they were telling you to take it, those are the people you should just not give any validity to, especially if they say they're contactee and they're spiritual. Because I'll actually give you an example of what happens when you're spiritual or you have contact, because it wouldn't let you do it anyway. So I have a friend, I talk about a Clariana, big up to Clariana in Brazil. That's one of my closest homegirls in Brazil. And before I went to move to Brazil, I didn't get there in time. So that's at the time they were rolling out, the Orange Man's bioweapon. And I was out of here. I was taking my dogs, my children. Many of you know I bounce, and I wanted. And they didn't give too many of the bioweapons to Brazil. It was like 13% of the population had at the time. So we got down there. But when I got down there, my homegirl is part of Kumbale, which is like a spiritual, like they have a connection to the Orishas or House of Orishas there. So everyone in her Orisha house was getting the shots and begging for the shots. These are the people who say they're in contact with the Orishas. Her house is the Orishas, Kumbale. They were telling her, hey, you got to get it because we're feeling sick. Now, these are people who say they have connection to beings that are outside of this uniformed collective reality we exist in. Okay. So I'm about to get there because I'm stopped off in one of the other towns and I'm getting to Bahia. So I'm not there yet. So they're telling her to get it. So, she was like, okay, I don't want to. Because she wasn't trying to get it herself. She was like, I don't want to. I'll make the appointment. She makes the appointment the first time. She goes there. This is before I get to Bahia. She goes to go to the appointment. The building's closed. No shots that day. She goes and she's kind of relieved. She's like, because she didn't want to get anywhere. She's like, well, then somebody else reminded her, one of those so-called spiritualists who's connected to the Orishas, probably the same person who's connected to the one that likes to talk to them on a walkie-talkie. Okay. Hey, you got to get your shot. Did you get it? Then she was like, okay, they're begging me. Let me go do it again. Next thing you know, she goes again. I don't know if it was a relocation thing. The second time, I forgot if she said they relocated the place, but nonetheless, the second time she goes, she doesn't get the shot because they relocate or something's wrong with the appointment, whatever. Listen, she's highly spiritual. This is the one I told you that was levitating when the butterfly was when she was little, who saw a butterfly when she was little in Brazil, in Rio, and she wanted to fly like the butterfly. She was like 5 or 4, and she started to levitate. And then when she told people that she was flying with the butterfly, she couldn't do it anymore. That's the one. So she didn't get the shot. I get there. Blah blah blah. We meet up. She comes to my house. I was like, yo, Clariana, make sure you don't get the shot. Because I don't think she's even going to get it. She was like, wait a second. She was like, I tried to get it, but I didn't get it. She was like, I was trying to get the shot. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, you didn't get it. But guess what? That's why I say when you are in the right frequency, there's nothing that would allow you to have gotten that. Nothing. She was going to get it. They were pressuring her to get it, but because her energy and her frequency was out of alignment, her own team didn't let her get it. Kind of like Dr. Mumbi. Dr. Mumbi went out there, they were going to try to get her, they didn't get her. So that story is to tell you that when you aren't aligned with something, it doesn't matter what. That's why I say look at the people back in the days. If they promoted getting the Kukarachi shot, if they didn't tell you not to get it, those are the people you need to give a side eye to. Because if they're spiritual, it depends if they're spiritual. If they're not spiritual, maybe they didn't know. That's different. I'm talking about people who say they're readers, talk about they know the Anunnaki, they talk into their orishas. They upload in the Artorians. These are the people. Go back to their. That's what. Don't call me. I told you already. I keep repeating because people still ask me. Don't call me. Go back to their archives. If you go in 2020 and they were promoting it, or they didn't say anything about it, or they were complicit in taking it, you should side eye that. That's not someone who's in alignment, and that lets you know that they're part of whatever's out there. Now, it could be that in this life they're not meant to ascend or go to another level, whatever. I don't know. I can't speak on that because I don't really know. But I'm saying that if they're perpetuating themselves as readers, psychics, speaking to other galactic beings, those beings would have already put up for what do you call it? Like a what's that called that the police the PBB? What's that called that the police do when APB? They would already put an APB on there. Oh, Clariana, they're trying to get her to take the shot. Don't let her do it no matter what. That's when you got guides on your hand. Right now, I share the stories about what happened to Easy from the young lady shared that raw with other people because they will send people to you that will act like your friends. They will be your biggest promoter and they will be plotting against you with your enemies. I've had people sit in my face and smile in my face and sit and talk to enemies for hours and never tell me anything because they were enemy. They will do that. Be careful. This is a time we're close to reset. The exodus is upon us. Keep your energetic field clean. Be mindful and love yourself. Work with what's going on with you. If you have trials and tribulations, things, shadows that need to be addressed, kick that dust out, cough out that phlegm, and work with it. Because we're at the time where you have an escape port, and when that Red Sea opens, and some have the ability to actually be extracted, if you kept your legitimacy, if you treat people well, you treat yourself well, you stay in alignment, you are being mindful of the planet, you're in that higher, your heart is as light as a feather, like the concept of Ma'at, you are going to be extracted if you're a real being. Okay? It's very important that everyone pays attention. This is the time that you can get dirtiest the quickest and fastest. Someone could have you doing, you could be a non-crackhead and be a crackhead on Friday and Saturday and Sunday. Okay? You could be so chaste and not having sex with diabolicals and be a whore and a thought next week. That's how quick it can happen. You could be friends with somebody who sat in your face for years acting like they cared about you, and they for $50 they'll set you up. Use your discernment, be mindful, love yourself, love your family, be the change you want to see in the world. Uphold yourself with integrity and ethics and values. Stop being gullible to people who aren't validatable and haven't qualified themselves to be able to teach you because they are not even taught themselves. The aliens are here, y'all. The black extraterrestrials are here. They're on site. Trump don't want them around us. He's going to try to quarantine brown people because he don't know who's who. It doesn't matter for us. I'm just letting you know that is my personal opinion. Trump is blocking certain countries where he knows that phenotype is very similar to those beings, including us. And the true Israelites, the so-called, the ones who are the 13 part of the 13 tribes that are here, just like what I perceive in the movie, Aliens versus Predators, you're about to be resurrected out of here if you don't slip on glass, cut your foot on glass, or slip off the side of a building following some of these clowns online. Okay. All right, y'all. Thank you very much for my somewhat rant. Sometimes I'm pretty non-hostile. I'm a somewhat happy person most of the time. I'm still working on myself too. Don't you ever think every day is a task in this dirty matrix. Okay? Love yourself first. If you love yourself, all these things are going to be so much easier. Forgive yourself, love yourself, give energy to yourself, and not in a selfish way where you're neglecting your family, where you're being mean to other people. I'm not talking about that. But sometimes what it is that our biggest enemy isn't outside of us, it's actually us. Really, because you project the things that are going inside of you and you're projecting it outside. So the things that we probably can just resolve is within us. And once we do that, is all good in the hood. Nothing would penetrate you. There wouldn't be anything that you would ever be concerned that could incept you because you're operating from self-centered zero love, 0 point love. And from that love emitting, everything around you should be emanating that kind of love energy. Okay. You know? And I'm looking forward to the exodus out of here. But also I know that I won't fall asleep at the wheel. I'm going to keep perpetually working on myself. And believe me, y'all, I don't come here telling you I'm perfect. I'm actually the least perfect I've ever been. And I work on myself and I have to think about, and the things that I don't know, the bone will pop out of the closet and I will have to work on myself even more. So I'm talking to you I'm not talking from the pulpit. I'm talking from the audience with y'all. We have to be the change we want to see in the world, but we got to work on ourselves first. Okay? So anyway, y'all, I hope this live was okay. The black extraterrestrials are here. Trump is trying to deter them from showing up and showing out, but it's too late, Trump. And one of our homeboys saw obelisk, big black 20,000 feet obelisk underneath in the inner earth. What's that about? Thank you, Alex, for sharing that. So anyway, I really wish everyone well. My voice is going, right? I talked to you guys for quite a while. Oh, my battery's almost dying. I didn't even know I talked to you. How long have we been talking? We've been talking for a while, right? Thank you for the donations, for everyone giving donations. That's really sweet. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And I will be speaking to the Zombies tomorrow. And again, if you have videos, I'm going to show the video. I'm going to try to get the video up of the UFO that was seen. And I know I was definitely showing on Zoom on Thursday, but the UFO that was seen over Vietnam. So if you have any videos of UFOs or the orbs, definitely drop the picture in the or send it to the email and we can show everybody because they'll say to us, oh, there's no such thing. Oh, you'll listen to that interview with what's his name, Coach Carlson, talking about, oh, well, there's oh the drones in Jersey. Oh, those are just military. Those are technology that the government. We weren't talking about the goddamn drones. We know the drones were there in the government dark ops that they had. We're talking about the freaking orbs, Mister. Psyops, y'all. It's my opinion. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you, bad boys, bad boys? What you gonna do? Oh, thank you. I miss you. Hey, Cosmic Wisdom. Oh, thank you, my love, all the time. Be well, FleurBrun. Thank you. All right, y'all. Let me go. I gotta get some positive to eat. Some fruit, right? Be fruitful. All right. I will speak to you guys on Thursday. Be mindful. Take pictures of the sky, everybody. Just take pictures of the sky. Don't make sure you pay attention to the skies. It's really powerful right now. Pay attention to your dreams. Keep your body as clean as possible. Be proactive and definitely definitely, definitely be excited. It's probably the most exciting time we've been in all the incarnations previously. All right. So I will speak to you guys later. I will talk to you and hopefully I can end this. Sometimes I end this crazy. All right. Peace. Peace.